Chapter 231. Alice, check out Growl FM. The message was simple and instantly had me on guard. Looked up from my junk. I'd been doing some cleaning on my guns, so I had an array of stuff all over the living room table and a brush scrubbing down everything. Flipping on the radio and changing the channel, I heard it. Was the wonderful track Do or Die by No World. I really love that one. Now as promised I got a special treat. Last night a new band hit Night City. Well, a mixture really. Standalone Complex. You might know one half of the band as Violent Hemorrhage, who unfortunately seem to have fallen apart after losing their previous frontman Carmen Sincity to Outerscope Records. I pointedly didn't give in to the temptation to turn off the radio, or worse hide in the covers. And I know all of you listening have heard of Ghost in the Shell, the standalone artist, that I've gotten plenty of requests to play more of. Well, they've combined their power. Standalone Complex, a new band, always good, I love new bands. But last night they had a gig in Electric Orgasm, I could use one of those right now, folks, and from everything I've heard, they blew everyone away. I got a full recording of their gig coming up, so enjoy a live play, from Standalone Complex. Fuck. I simply dropped my head and started cleaning, as my own voice came over the radio. Even if it was sexy Motoko voice, it still made me uncomfortable to hear myself. As I listened, because I couldn't quite pull the plug on the radio, I heard plenty of mistakes. And yet, the gig was good. When Heathens dropped, Ash actually stopped the recording. Okay, I need to pause everything for a moment, to let everyone know I'm messaging my contact with Standalone Complex. Yeah, I got one. Maybe if a producer reaches out, I'll pass the info over, but I'm gonna start begging for a studio version of that song. Mama wants. Okay, back to the music. I snorted. Sure that Hiromi had already gotten that message. Geez. This hadn't really been what I planned, but I felt my stomach turning a bit, but I wasn't going to hide. I'd decided to do this. That doesn't mean I couldn't go lay under a blanket for a while to get away from it all. Unfortunately, that plan failed when I remembered how much stuff I still had to do. Needed to finish cleaning my guns. Grumbling and not in fact hiding under a blanket, I kept working as I listened to the concert in full. This was something I'd have to get used to. This was my life now. The next morning I headed out early. I'd already had Alice send me a text talking about trying to set up another gig, and we already had a scheduled practice session tonight. But if I was going to play more music and not want to scream, I had some other stuff I needed to do. Like get some XP. Taking my Kusanagi across the city, I slipped into the straight lane apartments and down into my Netrunner cave. Only once I was down there did I relax. I'd considered bugging Malcolm to come back me up, but this was going to be a pretty easy session. As I settled into the Netrunner chair, I opened up my stat sheet. Dropping a skill point into quick hacks. As the chair started its cooling process, I sat back, not jumping into the net and just letting the information flow through me. For a quick hack, every millisecond was important. Reducing the amount of time a scan to target lock, for the hack to upload, for the program to initialize. Speed was life, and even just taking milliseconds was a lifetime. With programming I mostly focused on hardware, but with quick hacks themselves, it was about connecting the human to the machine. How to set up targeting systems early, to cut time, and the ways to split your focus to reduce latency. It was another step. Another synergy between hardware, program, and flesh. I dropped into the net, my lobby warm and inviting as I walked through it for a moment to get myself back into the mindset of the program. Then I jumped, rerouting myself through network node and server until I arrived once again at the no/brainer server. I slipped inside, delighting as demons already began appearing. Relatively free XP was still free XP. The grind was on. Motoko. Hiromi. I teased back and she pouted at me. I'm serious. I know you are. I threw my hands up. Sighing. Hiromi had made a deal with the producer, or talent scout guy. Basically, if we did a gig and were big enough, he'd send a formal offer to join his brand. Alice, Klein, and Jared were totally in. This was big for them. I'm doing this for you. She pouted at me, and I nodded. I know. And I do appreciate it. I'm trying to be more positive about it. I offered and she looked at me for a long moment before nodding once. That's okay. I just want to support you. You do. I said, reaching out and pulling her into a hug. You've always got my back and helped me smooth out my crazy schemes. Motoko. Who? Take it off. Rebecca. Hiromi shrieked and turned like she was going to swing at the other girl, and I just laughed as I held her back. Today was the Section 9 training meeting. Or really, I just made an excuse to get everyone together. We were shooting guns. But of course Hiromi was more focused on her manager stuff than anything. I finally let her go as Rebecca had a moment to get a head start and chased after. I looked around. Malcolm and Ichi were laughing at Hiromi as the two boys held rifles. I'd been setting out some targets and things before Hiromi had gotten distracted with her manager stuff. Finishing up, I walked back over to the boys and settled in as Malcolm brought his Masamune up. The high-end rifle was slightly adjusted and he fired, popping one of the Brozef bottles in one shot. Huh. Good shooting, now do all of them without stopping and without missing. I poked at him, and he nodded, locked in and started firing. He missed, but got all of them with a few retries. Quick reload like you ran out of ammo in the middle of a firefight. I reminded him, as I headed over to put up more bottles and trash to shoot. Malcolm was honestly the only one besides Rebecca that had much interest in training. Ichi was mostly just playing around, and Hiromi was here more to bug me about things than because she planned on picking up a gun. Rebecca was into it a bit, but not as much. She had that edge runner attitude, she was already skilled with a gun, and in her mind that was enough. It was a little frustrating. This isn't working, I decided, looking over my group of chums. What isn't? Ichi asked, looking over. Malcolm's staccato firing from his Masamune echoed out the only productive noise from the entire group. This training. It's supposed to be a way to make sure everyone stays alive, but no one is really training, except Malcolm. I mean, I don't really fight much. I've got my turrets. Ichi, you still need to practice shooting. Being quicker on the draw could save your life. He shrugged, casually. I'm as well protected as I can get in the truck. I don't think practicing shooting a pistol is going to matter. Anything that can get through my cab is already going to kill me. That's not the point. What if you are just walking inside when you get home and someone is there trying to take you out? It's a peaceful neighborhood. Ichi. I grumbled, glaring at him. Hey, I'm just being honest. I'm not a fighter, Motoko. Truck guy? That I can do. Guns? I'm not really good with it, and this is boring. Boring? We're shooting guns. Yeah, which is alright a bit, but you're asking for like, he rolled his wrist like he couldn't find the word. Training. Repetitive. Training. That's what I said. Jerk. I snapped at him, and he just laughed. I looked over, and instead of arguing with a blockhead, went to Malcolm. Malcolm. Chum. You like training, right? Shooting guns, getting the muscle memory down on how to draw. It's kinda boring, but it's what you want. He replied, lowering his Masamune. He'd actually been doing the reloading drills I'd set him on between firing and. Malcolm was a good boy, but if even he didn't want to really do this? We need better training. I realized, sighing. This wasn't going to work. Just like when I dragged everyone to the gun ranges, they'd shoot a bit, laugh, have some fun and then leave. I wanted professionalism out of teenagers, without even properly setting it up. Maybe a week-long boot camp? Out in the desert, get a former Militech drill instructor. We could afford that for a week or two easy. I whispered, tapping at my lips, my cool chrome helping me think. Guys. Motoko saying scary shit. We need to figure something out, or else. I blinked, looking up at Malcolm, who didn't even hide his grin at me. What now? Hiromi asked, walking up a little ruffled from messing around with Rebecca. Something about a week or more boot camp with a drill instructor. Nope. Rebecca called out. Not a chance, strings. But you're all slacking. Slackers. We all need training. I'm not the soldier type. Rebecca said, pointing at, well, all of herself. Really? You'd make a great soldier, Rebecca. I assured her, but shook that off. That wasn't the point. But this is important. Section 9 needs to be more than just me. You all deserve more than that, and I believe in you. Malcolm and Rebecca are both good solos, and I believe you both can be great. Itchy is a good driver, and his turrets are a great addition if he'd just stop stealing my Minotaur. Never. And Hiromi is awesome, but even she needs to know how to draw her gun, when to do it, and the training to get into cover. I'd been on gigs. Rebecca reminded me, her finger pointing. And it'll be fine, everyone learn as we go. A few firefights and you learn to duck real quick. She chuckled, but I shook my head. That's great if you want to be some edge runner that dies the first time they run into someone that actually knows what they're doing, but I want my chums to be better than that. All of you are going to live to 60 and die old and happy. I told them, and Rebecca laughed. A donkey laugh that broke into giggles. Fuck that. I'm dying doing what I love. Shooting a giant gun and cussing out my killer. There's more to life than that. I snapped back, and Rebecca smirked. Motoko, you got a big heart, kid, but only I get to choose how my life goes. She said, tapping a thumb against her chest. I'm an Egderunner like my father, like my idiot brother. Maybe I'll live long enough to pop out a couple brats like my pops, but I'm not going to live a quiet life. That's stupid. I told her, and she just laughed, which only made me more irritated. Okay, before Motoko makes us all go out into the desert and do something crazy. Itchy cut in, earning an additional glare which he ignored. Let's all calm down. Motoko, you know we're in, but like. I'm not like you. I pouted at him as even Hiromi nodded. Yeah, Motoko, you're kinda insane. Malcolm added. Rude. I mean, what you can do. I can't just learn how to shoot a gun in a month and suddenly be a crack shot killer. Malcolm tapped his fist against my shoulder. We all got your back, but this isn't something we can really do. Then? We just need to make it something you can. Training is important, and I don't want you all to die. I told them and got a few smiles and smirks. Well, why don't we figure out a way to train that's not so lame? Fine. I snapped, throwing my hands up. I'll figure something out. We'll help Motoko. Hiromi cut in, sidling up to me. I think your idea to find someone that trained soldiers is good. We can find someone with good ideas, and use them. GRMBL. I walked off as I considered the situation. Trying to keep my chums alive was important, and even if it was minor in their view, just a second faster in pulling a gun was a lifetime. Literally. Chrome wasn't the answer. It was a tool, but not the answer. We needed both. Chrome for my chums and the skills to keep them over the gonks that only had one or the other. Mostly it just annoyed me because no matter how much I tried to train them, it wasn't really working. I think I was just a bad teacher. Ugh, and this was before I even brought on David too. If I can't teach, what was I going to do with that kid to keep him from just going the easy path? Do I have to do this? Hiromi had been very sure that this was 100% necessary, but I had my doubts. You're going to the Tiger Claw's yearly Christmas meeting. Of course you have to dress up. I could just wear what I normally do, be the weird outsider teenager that doesn't conform. I don't like conforming, Hiromi. Conform, Motoko. She laughed as she spun around me. I looked at the seamstress. The woman wearing a full-on kimono sent me a blank look, but I could tell she was judging me. Fine. I sighed, slumping. This was expensive. I didn't want to spend so much on a kimono. I mean, sure, if I bought a nice one now, I could probably wear it forever. I wasn't going to get any taller, and I wasn't going to get any fatter. But still. Oh, this one? Do you think? Hiromi asked, spinning around with a silk kimono, showing it to the seamstress. It would look fine with her hair, but her eyes would clash. The older woman offered, as she started moving around the shop, and Hiromi and her were soon throwing kimono against me to test the colors and patterns. We can't just go with the purple-blue one? I asked, pointing at the first one they'd compared me to. No. That is not for such an occasion. The old woman responded, and I just pouted. Just put me in the goofy restricting clothes that had no armor already. I just wanted to get this over with. If Hayata wasn't a friend, I wouldn't even bother showing up, but she'd been so happy when I said I would show up. Ugh, we should do something with her hair. Hiromi whispered. My hair is fine. Extensions? She could be a proper Nadeshiko. I like my hair. Oh, that could be good. She's going to have a sword on her too. She will carry a blade? I'm a kensei. That's why I'm being invited. I muttered a bit, pouting as everyone was just ignoring me, and then the woman was in my face far too close. Hey. You? A kensei? Yes? Then none of this will do. You should have told me. We will need to make something else. The woman grumbled, shooting across the floor without really moving her legs as she ran out to a back room instead of the display room we were in. So? She's just going to leave me like this? I whispered. I was in just my underwear on a little stand so Hiromi and the old woman could run around me in circles and throw things at me. It's not so bad, Hiromi said, and I felt it. A flash of grave danger. Huh. I called out, dropping down and slapping my hands together to catch a blade, but instead all I caught was Hiromi's fingers as she had reached out to pinch me. Wha? Revenge. I called out and my hand slipped up her arm. My fingers slipped into her shift, dragging her close, leaving us practically face to face. Then I dropped lower, changed my center of gravity and used a bit of judo to hip toss Hiromi right over. Yeah. She shrieked as she tumbled right onto the soft tatami. Considering her sudden defeat and our current location, I had no choice. I tapped my fingers together to mimic the noise and then called out. Yuu. The kabuki keiko set the scene as the woman re-entered, staring at Hiromi still on her back staring at the floor, while I knelt over her in victory. Please do not roughhouse in my shop, she decided to say, and then ignored it all as she entered with a new kimono. Sorry, I offered and returned to standing. Hiromi finally sat up and then climbed to her feet. That's cheating, she decided, her glare mixing with her flushed face in anger to just make Hiromi cute, and I just grinned. This will be the kimono you wear, the woman offered as she pulled it out, and it was definitely more expensive looking than the others. Fine silk, a fine blue outer with the inside being a pretty white, but it was textured in a very expensive sort of way. Within a few minutes I was forced into it, and standing there as adjustments were made. It does look okay, I offered, but then frowned. I feel like I'm going to ruin it though. That will not happen, the old woman said, but it was less, you won't be able to, and more, don't you fucking dare. I'll be careful. See that you do. This is actual silk, and the cloth is older than your grandmother. I will add the kensei crest to the back. You will take care of this, and if there is ever any damage you will return to me. You understand? Ah. We haven't bought it yet? I responded to the woman's firm demand, and then she pushed up real close. This is the kimono you will take. This is the kimono I will take. How much? I responded, and the woman nodded once. Motoko. Don't just ask. Forgive her. She's an idiot, Hiromi said, bowing in apology. Rude. It will be expensive, she decided after a moment, and that left me wanting to cry. I was trying to save money right now. Hiromi, if you're that worried about Eddie's Motoko, then do more jobs, or better yet, do more rocker boy gigs, Hiromi said without any sympathy. Why are you so happy to spend eddies on this? It's just a kimono. Having a formal kimono is important. This is for your meeting with all the upper management of the Tiger Claws, again, while at the side of the princess, and most importantly, it looks good on you, Motoko. Huh? Really? I asked, raising up the large sleeve. Honestly? I'd always loved the long sleeves on kimonos. Maybe I should get or make a kimono jacket, sort of like the, who was it, from ancient Japan. Come on, Motoko, you've seen enough anime about this. Shinsengumi? Yeah, that was it. Katana sword battles always looked cooler with flowing sleeves. Just look at Kill Bill. Lucy Liu was awesome in that. This obi will allow you to carry a blade as is your right, as Ken say. The old woman offered, bringing a pretty ornate obi over and adjusting it. The whole thing left me feeling kinda squished, but I'd live, I guess. Is there going to be room for my holster? I don't go anywhere without my guns. Bakano Gaijin I winced at her under her breath cursing in Japanese. It continued for a few moments. Not sure what she said in total, but it was pretty scathing. No. There will be no room for guns and holsters. What do you take this for? I just pouted I'd sneak a gun into this mess anyhow. Bet my barrier would fit under that massive sash thing. I sighed. More practice sessions tonight with the band. Alice was eager to set up another gig, and then this meeting next week. So much to do. Chapter 232. Heard you got a new gig. Juan. I whined from the couch. I sat up and glared at him. What? Don't want me. I can hear that smirk on every word. I'm not giving up my merc job. Sure. He said, very much not agreeing with me, as he said it. I sat up and glared at him. I'm too good of a merc to quit. You say that because you aren't making rocker boy eddies yet. I don't care about eddies. You don't care about eddies. Yet. Okay, you want an ass beating? I demanded, waving a fist at him, and he just sent me another smug look. You'd lose. Fuck, I would. I got secret ninja powers. Neen. Pfft. I'm still stronger than you. Only like a gorilla. Hey. You're the gorilla here. I considered leaping off the couch and bringing truth to my words, but I considered it. I had band stuff last night. Band stuff tonight. No gigs to distract me. No grinds that I was doing right this minute. I still needed a better server for the Tachikoma. I'd have to figure that out soon, been leaving it hanging for too long. June. You doing anything? He asked from around a burrito, so I felt my nose scrunch up. Gross. Is good. He argued as always, and I shook off the fact he'd spoken with his mouth full. I think XXL burritos actually looked better chewed up, which was a disturbing thought. I've been meaning to do more hand-to-hand. I could use someone to spar against. So you busy? To throw my little brat of a sister around a mat for a while? Never. He decided, and I hissed at him for acting like it was going to be that easy. I'm gonna punch you in your stupid abs and break them. I warned him, and he actually flinched a bit and put a hand on his stupid plastic abs. Motoko. Don't. Oh, come on, they're fake. It's expensive cyberware. It's a plastic body sculpt. There is no cyberware there, June. Says you. Idiot. Idiot. No, you. You. Oh, it's on Ananithai-chan. I drawled out as I tapped my padded gloves together and bounced around. I'm gonna enjoy reminding you that I'm the big brother, he said, smiling as his own hands were wrapped in heavy pads. Gamaroa was close enough that we just walked to the gym, both of us throwing jabs and trying to mess with the other the entire way. Rules? I won't punch you in the dick. I want little nieces and nephews someday, and you need all the help you can get. Look who's talking. Idiot. You're the idiot. I growled, and he hunkered down into a brutal-looking boxing stance and rushed in. Fast. June was a lot faster than I'd normally expect. I knew he'd been jacked in with all sorts of cyberware when he first joined the kamikaze, but I'd never actually asked exactly what he had. But as fast and strong as he was? I was very good with street brawling, and fast enough his initial assault, which I noticed he was holding back a good bit, wasn't fast enough to strike me. I juked, falling into a boxing stance myself despite not really being a boxer. His fists whiffed twice before I grabbed one that was overextended, and I tried to hip check him, only for his stupid too heavy body to just lift me off my feet. I was held there, his arm straight out my feet off the mats as I jerked a few times only for nothing to happen. This is bullshit. You're way too small for that. I could totally judo throw you if you weren't so fat. doubt. I activated my Sandy, even as his mouth continued to mouth the words. I dropped most of the way back to the mat, and bounced, using all the force of my strong legs, to fly back up, calves wrapping around my idiot brother's too big head and then flinging sideways a bit. The momentum this time was enough to throw him off his feet, and I landed in a cool 3-point landing a bit away before rising up and patting my hands together. Doubt that? Cheating. He grumbled, as he rose up checking himself over. And it didn't do shit. What was that, some stupid action movie move? You realize if you did that to someone they'll just shoot you. I'll shoot them. Then why do it in the first place? Just shoot them. To disable them in case they were about to shoot me. They'll just shoot you anyways. I'll shoot them first. June leapt at me, and I leapt in, both of us brawling and hitting each other as we continued yelling, ignoring the normal gym goers who were all moving away. You fight like a moron. You are a moron. And you're a gorilla. Eventually the two of us ended up on the mat. I had my arm around June's stupid neck cause obviously he didn't need oxygen for a brain that small, and he was crushing me with his stupid bulk while pummeling into my side to get me to let go. Hey! We both looked up at the yell, as the gym manager came out of his little office. I don't care what this is. Cut it out. Break it up. We instantly disentangled, June taking a moment to catch a breath. His head had been turning a bit purple, and I winced as I felt my side. Lucky he had been wearing gloves. Sorry about that. I replied eventually, and the owner threw up his hands and went back to the office. You shouldn't disturb people so much, Junie. Shut up. He grumbled at me as he threw a towel at my head. I don't think sparring is something we can really do. I admitted, and June looked at me and snorted. No, I don't think so either. We both smiled at each other and broke into chuckles as I walked over and nudged him. We ended up putting the pads away and getting breakfast, even though June just grabbed another fresh burrito XXL out of the vending machine, while I got some meat skewers from the guy surrounding the building. I took the rest of the morning to fuck around. I flopped on my bed and checked in on my Tachikoma. Already I could see the motive programming was doing well. The racing game that I'd set them up with whenever I remembered was doing a great job on filling in how to move around on wheels. I flicked the power on, and let the Tachikoma load up as I set it on my bedroom floor. Soon the little drone was moving around on its wheels pretty good. Only, I probably should have considered that. I muttered as it was happily doing laps around my room in a circle. Well, it had gained the ability to drive and turn, that was already a big step. I'd just remove the whole circle thing. In fact, I pulled up my system and checked my points. Intelligence 16, 20, due to cyberization, maximum value has increased by 10. Breach protocol 15. Quick hacks 13. Programming 15. 0 stat point. 3 skill point. Yep, I really needed to spend some of those. Programming instantly got another point, bringing me up to a solid 16. I shivered as the knowledge flooded through me, as I processed and learned what it had to tell. I was already starting to pull up the Tachikoma's data as the knowledge flowed through me, and I went to work, clearing up the accidentally learning to always follow a track, or going in circles. I opened my Tachikoma to a whole new world. Suddenly it stopped and just waited, making me realize once again that just because it could, didn't mean the Tachikoma would without a bit of a push. So I gave it a new task. Map out the entire room. It stuttered to a start, stopping and going, and soon I was helping it develop a sort of digital mapping program to help it learn and design spaces. I was humming and kicking my feet up as I just watched and helped my Tachikoma grow. It was like playing with a pet, almost. Especially since programming was starting to come so naturally to me, the idea of using a physical keyboard to program felt slow and awkward. There was no more hesitation. My code was born at the speed of my thought, and I felt like I'd been coding like this for decades. Soon the Tachikoma had a mapping program that they could even create just through visuals. It'd be silly for them to need to run around like a Roomba or something. Tachikoma had optics. Soon in their digital database they had a representation of the room, and even me inside it. I had a thought and shifted over, rolling over so I was in a different spot. The map program instantly seemed to notice the change, and I could see where the Tachikoma came into conflict, as it tried to process the alteration. Then, I think I'd just taught my Tachikoma object permanence. The code had been altered slightly, to make adjustments for time. Literally letting the Tachikoma understand that things changed through time. Neat. I ran through the attempt to learn that, and made a few adjustments to clean up the code so the poor thing wouldn't take literally millisecond snapshots of reality forever. That would cause a slowdown to say the least. But my Tachikoma would notice changes as they happened. It had the ability to register that the environment was not a permanent, but changing reality. I was so happy. Only it really needed more processing power. Even with the hookup to the old laptop, which was probably going to need to be wiped to just act as a secondary server for the Tachikoma. It really just didn't have the processing power it needed. Hiromi hadn't managed to find any good info on a real server. But to be fair, I'd put so much on her plate, I wasn't surprised. I should reach out to Yoko. I know there were amazing drone systems out there. The Flathead was crazy, but they were still developing it, creating it. The hardware had to exist. A Flathead hard drive would be a big surge forward for my Tachikoma, even without the split server processing. Was I thinking about robbing Militech? Maybe. Yes, I was. It wasn't even that crazy of a thought. Maelstrom did it, and they got away with it. I should consider setting up a hardware raid. I'd just need to determine where some of their drone hard drives would be, and then just grab them. Heck, I could probably sneak in myself. Make it look like some stuff dropped off the back of a truck. I'd need to get some data, break into the Militech shipping manifests, determine location and time, and sneak in. It honestly sounded like a lot of fun. I got up, leaving the Tachikoma to continue mapping out its space and playing around as it explored to head out. Grabbing my jacket and equipment, I headed down. I was going to talk to Yoko face to face. As usual, Flesh Yoko was a very different woman than she was online. Yoko. I greeted her as I leaned over on the counter and she looked at me through those little dark sunglasses of hers. Motoko. I was thinking of setting something up, and I wanted to run it past you. I explained and she considered me for a bit before nodding. Come into the back. We will talk there. She nodded at another of the people in her little shop, and they slipped behind her counter and I followed into a sort of workers' break room in the back. Yoko sat down, but she was still almost stilted. Almost like the Yoko on the net was the real Yoko, and this was just a copy. Considering how much attention she was probably giving the net at any one moment, that might be fairly accurate. I need some drone hard drives, the top-of-the-line ones, Militech. I got the idea of taking it directly, so to speak. Either hitting a convoy, or just sneaking into a storage area and getting what I need. I figured if I was going to go against Militech, I should get some advice. Indeed. Dangerous. Very dangerous. Militech aren't like other minor corps. They will respond with overwhelming force. Then I just won't let them see me. A convoy would require work. A lot of work, but the value is there. Militech equipment is always in high demand. More risk, but you'd get more. Right. A few hacks, disrupting communications, break in, steal the truck, or just empty it out right then before anyone can respond and disappear. Simple in concept, but far more difficult to pull off than you expect. Militech convoys are often multiple vehicles. Right, but I figure there's some hacks already out there that cut off the sort of communications they use. Right? There are. I could provide the data in exchange for part of the supplies. I could see that being an acceptable trade. I responded back before breaking into a smile, because being all serious about it just wasn't me. But what about stealing from their storage? Difficult in other ways, although perhaps not for one of your skills. But you will be very limited on what you can pull out. I honestly don't need much. The drone hard drives are really all I'm looking for. Then, I can assist for another offer. Oh? There is a Militech showroom in city center. Ever been? Not that I remember. I said as I scratched at the side of my head. Had old Motoko gone? Militech enjoys their showrooms, enjoys wowing the public with their next revealed product. But, While the showroom is excellent for that, it's not a secure storage. I think I get what you're saying. Underneath the showroom there is an underground supply room. Very difficult to get into, strong security, but it may have what you need and more. Do you have the security layout? From 6 months ago. Out of date. Better than nothing. Yoko replied and I smirked. And what does Yoko want out of it? Militech is releasing a new update for the Para line. If you can secure one for me, or a few perhaps, I would consider my assistance bought and paid for. If we can confirm they have what we both need, I wouldn't mind the assistance. I offered and Yoko gave a tiny little stilted smile. I will begin digging into it, but I highly suggest you do so as well. You've not yet touched corporate ICE, yet you have the skill. You're right. I couldn't deny that. I've avoided the core for the most part. Wise if you wish to stay alive a long time, but pointless if you wish to be more. I'm perfectly happy with who I am, and I plan to live forever. I denied her, and she smirked at my heated response. Doesn't sound like an edge runner. I'm not. Just a merc. I shook it off. Okay, I'll jump on the net later, send me what you have. I will do so. Nova. Thanks Yoko. I slipped back out of her shop, before heading home. I didn't have a super long time before the band was going to meet again for more practice sessions. Hitting Militech to steal what I need. That was dangerous, maybe even super dangerous. But I could do it. My fingers made the guitar purr as I played along with the band. We were just practicing our normal songs. This fire, currently. I moved up to the mic and sang, falling into the rhythm of the song. Finally we finished and I wiped my forehead. Well? I asked, looking at everyone and got smiles in turn. A little bit of success had gone to their heads. The depression-filled crumbling band was no more. They were eager to play, happy to work. I didn't hear any issues. Alice called out looking everyone over, and got nods from Jared and Klein. No issues here. I nodded and settled onto a seat to grab some water. All right, out with it. Alice, you've been side-eyeing me all night. I asked her, and she smirked a bit. We got a bite. She said and Jared and Klein both perked up. Our music has been heard, and we've got more than one producer sniffing around. Nothing concrete yet, but I've heard through some contacts. You mean your uncle? I asked, because that was what I was guessing. Shut up. Anyway. I heard that we might have a few producers looking to drag us onto their label. Next gig is going to be big. Super big. Then we need to practice so we don't flub a song. I mentioned, and everyone glared at me a bit. What? Practice was important. We do, but more importantly, we need to get our name out as much as we can. Your chum Hiromi reached out, and she says there has been some requests for a studio version of Faint. Ugh, yeah, I heard. I muttered. Well, we should get that made. Tonight. I looked at the band and nodded. Alright, I think we can all handle that. Everyone ready for it? I'll need a break first. Jared called out, and I nodded. Fair enough. Let's take 20. I could use a break too. I offered and that had everyone happy. I'd stopped saying 5 or 10-minute breaks, 'cause I'd just get these big tough rocker boys pouting at me about not getting enough time to fuck around. Lazy is what they were. So I headed out. The studio we were renting as always led to a club upstairs, where the rocker boy could go hang out in their natural element. Getting drunk and wasting eddies apparently. Chapter 233. Hiromi Mitsunashi. She startled awake as her agent alarm went off. Hiromi had a moment of inexplicable confusion, before she remembered. Right. Late night with Motoko and the band, early morning for school. She should just call in. She groaned as she sat up and looked around her room. The neon lights, and old tiger claw stuff left the room streaming in different colors, enough she could see. Open window. She croaked, and the shutters quietly opened letting in the night city sunlight. Rubbing at her face she climbed out of her bed and staggered over to the bathroom. As she slipped under the 14 sprayers, she tapped the wall panel for a real massage from the heads. Still half asleep, she pulled up her agent's timeline. Tomorrow night was the big gig. Everything for that should be locked in, but she still needed to call the club owner and double-check there weren't any issues. Hiromi had skipped a few clubs already for gigs when they tried to gotcha her with extra fees or other gong shit. As if she was just a street brat, desperate for a chance at a real gig. She smirked a little as she shifted, letting a sprayer get her right under the shoulder where her muscles felt a little locked up from sleeping on her arm. Funny. Okay, she added that in for her lunchtime, she could make the call while she ate. Next thing. Section 9 was quiet, and most of the loot they'd gathered had been sold, but there were still a few bits and pieces that were sitting in storage. Some of that gunk's security system hadn't sold since anyone rich enough for a real security system wasn't buying second-hand from the people that had overcome the system. No, Hiromi would need to reach out to gain contacts, they'd be more willing to pay at least partial price. Every mid-range thug thought they needed security in case their many enemies came after them. Unfortunately, she hadn't gotten any bites just yet. She sent off a few more offers to the contacts she'd developed, and moved on. SLS income had a discrepancy. Her agent made the call as she groaned and shifted a bit in the water. This is Richard. Steele. *Ah, boss. What do you want? *. Hiromi rolled her eyes. He was nervous, but he was still a brat. His words made him sound like he was demanding something from her, when it was, and always should be the opposite. The last report had some income discrepancies. Yes boss, I added it to the message last week. Harry lost a bag into the river while running from some street kids. We roughed them up after, but even if we wanted to, the water would have ruined it. We left the bag. That's right. She remembered getting the message now. Fine, this is a one-time allowance. Tell Harry if he's selling around bodies of water to avoid them from now on, or else. Yes boss. All right. Everything else looks good, Richard, but I'm sending some marketing data I've been looking at. Adjust the seller locations accordingly. You got it, he agreed, although as always sounded less than willing. Marketing data and research might as well be magic, he didn't trust it, but Hiromi was firm on tracking where sales took place and when. No point hanging outside a corpo building to sell some excitement to worker drones while they were all working. You had to show up when the job let off, or on their lunch or smoke breaks. If they got such a thing. Just follow the information. Everything else has been quiet, correct? Yeah boss, just the usual stuff, new gonks trying to make some territory, or scop suckers that don't know that we got agreements. I've taken care of it. Good. The income has been tighter recently, but the new music BDs have done well, excellent job pushing them. It's not the usual flavor, but it's something new. It's also important marketing for our most important VIP. Keep it up. Yeah, I know. Ain't about to start shit with the fucking Onryo. Hiromi smiled and just hung up. Yes, fear my Motoko. Wahahaha. She stretched a bit, finishing the shower, and stepping out, drying off and makeup as she ran down the rest of her checklist. She scanned over the gigs on offer from some of the fixers, but nothing that was any good. A transport job was forwarded to Ichi though. He could send an acceptance or not on his own though. As she added her customary flair to her eyelashes, she sent out a text to Motoko just to get away from all the work. Hiromi, want to meet up for lunch? Motoko, yes. Hiromi, save me. Alice wants to schedule practice every day until the gig. My fingers are chrome, and they're still sore. Hiromi twitched into a smile at Motoko's whining. As she was responding, a beep sounded on her agent and she shifted focus. An offer for one of the security bots? Good. Those things were trash, and she was kinda glad Motoko had forgotten all about them since they were terrible off-brand versions, which made her want to strangle whoever bought them. Offloading them had been a chore. She swiftly messaged back, but adjusted the text to not sound desperate. Even if she was. The cost to house the things was starting to inch closer to what she could pull from selling them. Dumping them was becoming more and more the optimal solution, which made her want to grind her teeth. With that, she switched back to Motoko and rolled her eyes, a bit less willing to deal with Motoko complaining about work considering how much she dumped on Hiromi's shoulders. Hiromi, Motoko. Motoko, new. Don't give me disappointed. Hiromi frowned through text, that's so mean. Okay fine, I'll stop complaining. It's only a couple days, and a little practice isn't bad, I'm really trying to nevermind. Hiromi just shook her head at Motoko's rambling texts. Seriously, usually she was quick with her texts, but sometimes when she was distracted she'd just ramble at her. It was cute. Hiromi, I'll see you at lunch. Motoko, great. Oh, I haven't talked to David since we talked about bringing him in, you should bring him, so we can go over his training. Malcolm agreed to help out. Hiromi remembered, during Section 9's last training day, that had mostly been Motoko trying to get everyone to work as hard as she did when it came to crazy soldier skills. Seriously, Motoko could just pull out a pistol, stare at a target, and practice her movements for hours, utterly silent and focused as if the idea of boredom was for lesser people. Hiromi smiled. It was one of Motoko's cool points. But EUGH. What is with Motoko's interest in the gonk? Hiromi, fine. Motoko, thanks Hiromi. She rolled her eyes. Whatever. She rose up. Makeup done. Hair styled. She'd been growing it out since the Mohawk days. Back before Motoko had changed. Now? She was growing her hair out, the natural way, as she waited for inspiration to strike how she wanted to style it. She ran a hand through the growing thickness on the sides of her head. The former mohawk being super long, while she had the rest of her hair still short, thankfully gave her an acceptable look for now, but she needed to figure out what to do eventually. Maybe she'd ask Motoko what she thought. She smiled knowing what her friend would say. Anything is good? Or maybe you're cute no matter what you do. She said aloud and smiled at herself, knowing that Motoko was great like that. Well, the new Motoko. Her friend used to be such a bitch. Hiromi grinned. God, she'd been so. She shook it off. Old Hiromi was gone, just like old Motoko. Only who they were now mattered, and Hiromi liked the new her, and the new Motoko. They were still the same in some ways, but better. Nodding, she left her bathroom, and grabbed her academy uniform. Slipping into the perfectly fitted uniform, she nodded as she adjusted the tie and skirt. All right. Morning classes, a test she hadn't prepared for, and a financial analysis report. She needed to start right now if she was going to have it ready in time for class. But this was just a normal day for Hiromi Mitsunashi, Corpo, Section 9 manager, and probably the most powerful teenager in Night City. She grinned as she reminded herself once again that Motoko was her personal assassin if needed. It made classes much less stressful when she knew in the back of her mind that their gruesome murder was only a phone call away. It made her feel warm that Motoko was there for her. The screams hit me as I played the last chord of Faint. A week of preparation. Of playing over and over, and in the end, we just did the same set list as the Electric Orgasm. Alice had gotten cold feet about another new song, but that was fine. I watched as the crowd roared and bounced. Seventh Hell was a much fancier place than any other gig we'd done. Bigger place, more expensive, more packed. I glanced over the bar where I could see corpo suits watching. 3 of them. Music producers, here for us. I even recognized the same guy from Dino's place. We're stand-alone complex. Thank you and good night. I roared out, fist raised, and got a good response right back. The music was good. The response, excellent. And as I turned and walked off the stage, into the back rooms, I could only think of one thing. Had it worked? Yes. Jared suddenly roared, and I actually jolted at the sudden noise. He reached over, grabbed a bottle of something expensive from a table next to our gear, and just poured it into his mouth. Yeef. Did you hear that? That response. Those cheers. We blew this house down tonight. He roared out after his drink. Pass that shit. Klein demanded, and the 2 men instantly swapped the bottle, taking a swig. You. That goes down harsh. Damn right. We fucking rocked tonight. Alice. He ordered and she wandered over and took the bottle, swigging it down. Oh, that is strong fuck. That's right. Tonight. Whether it all works out, or comes crashing down, we party like we're famous. She called out laughing, and then they all looked at me. Absolutely not. I don't drink. I said, walking over a bottle of water in my hand that I'd grabbed to help cool off, and instead I tinked it against the bottle and slugged back a drink. But I think you all did great tonight. Oh, come on. Klein said, thrusting the bottle at me, but oh no, I wasn't making that mistake again. I ignored him as I finished my water and chucked it into a trash can as I moved to put my Orphean away. Leave it, Klein, Motoko's a kid. Fuck you. I responded to Alice's words with a middle finger, and she shrugged. That had definitely been an attempt at peer pressure. The bitch. Well, we aren't done yet. Jared offered, as he adjusted his open hollow jacket, and smiled brightly. The best part of tonight? Time to meet the groupies. He laughed and Klein and him fist bumped as they put some of their stuff away and then headed out, and up the stairs to the VIP area. That means you too, Motoko. What? Groupies, Motoko. Girls and boys that want to throw themselves at the rocker boys that just filled up every inch of their body with adrenaline and need. Come on, you gotta come to this too. Not really my thing? I offered, and Alice rolled her eyes. It's part of the gig. While it might look like just fun for us, a lot of those people on the dance floor pay extra to come up and hang with us. This is an important part of being a rocker boy. We get paid by the club for the music, the spectacle, but also the extra VIP room purchases for all of them to come hang with us. Hiromi mentioned we need to do more than just the show, we've got to earn the club eddies, so come on front girl, you come too. Hiromi said that? We never did this before. I tried to argue, and Alice snorted. You didn't, besides we've never played at a place like 7th Hell, this isn't small time. Just come up, hang out, you don't have to actually do anything. Best not, in fact. You're a bit young. Okay, fuck you again, and I'm not interested. I said a bit flatly, and Alice smirked at me smugly. I'll keep an eye on you for your brother, but we do have to go and drum up some extra attention. Play a song. What? If you don't want to be a flirtation attraction for the groupies, then figure something else out, but be the story. Everyone here tonight wants to have a story to tell their friends tomorrow. That's what makes rocker boys so special. I know at least one girl is going to be up there specifically for you. Alice offered and I blinked, honestly confused. Who? The girl you tossed that shotgun of yours to. Alice reminded, and I felt my face get a little warm. I'd done heathens the same way, tossing out the shotgun shells, and picking a specific person right at the front to be the heathen for the song. She'd absolutely screamed as I dropped the shotgun, and holy shit, she'd been top-heavy, clutching that carnage to her chest, hadn't done anything to hide the way she. Right. Her. I have to go? I asked, but Alice sent me a look. Yeah, alright, fine. I guess I'll try? If you really can't figure out what to do, just be the mysterious one, or just play a song, like I said. She said, jerking her head at my guitar, and I nodded slowly. That wasn't a terrible idea. I could just play a song. I had songs. I had all the songs. I followed Alice when I realized I really couldn't just hide down in the band room, and up the stairs I was met by a bouncer that quickly moved aside and opened up the upper VIP area to my eyes. The band was already swarmed, Alice just flopping into a couch and looking every inch the rocker boy she was, as she wide-armed the couch and looked utterly confident. Klein and Jared already had booze in one hand, and a girl each in the other. And as I walked up onto the floor, my guitar in one hand, cause honestly I was planning on using it as a shield, I realized that probably wasn't going to work. There was a noise, awareness of the groupies gasping at my appearance, pointing or calling. Although thankfully not all of them. Instinctively I knew if I hesitated I'd get swarmed. So instead let myself go cool, confident, swagger. I stepped forward ignoring it all as I found a chair just far enough away no one had claimed it, and I grabbed the back of the seat, as everyone watched. That's fine, Alice said I should be part of the story they'd tell. Okay, fine. If this was part of being a rocker boy, then I don't think I could be the amorous rocker boy like the others, but that was okay. I'd just make my own persona. The scraping of the chair had grabbed everyone's attention, but Jared, Klein, and Alice were all wondering what was going on. So I brought the chair into a quiet area along the back wall, and flipped it around so my back was to the wall. And then I settled in, and before anyone could ask, my fingers started strumming. The bass of the club still flowed through, but the live show was over, and the VIP area seemed a bit more insulated from the speakers, so I ran my hands over my guitar. It was no acoustic, but the noise hardly mattered. I finally looked up, and half bent over, my face half covered by my hair. I caught the gaze of the woman that Alice had warned me about, carnage still clutched to her chest, kinda surprised they let her bring that up here, but anyways. Hello, I've waited here for you, everlong. I crooned, just loud enough to cut through the ambient song playing in the club. Instincts on how to shift, how to move, when to slow the song, when to sing it all the louder flowed through me, and I used every ounce of them. I'd rather be known as the mysterious rocker boy with an aftershow, than the rocker boy that gets swarmed by crazed groupies. This was a brilliant plan, Motoko. You are so smart. Hiromi Mistunashi. The discussion had been cutthroat. Hiromi though ignored any of the implied threats, instead just smirking confidently through them. She had the best situation she could have asked for. The three producers were all interested. She had them on the hook, and by the glares they sent at each other they knew it. Now of course, that didn't mean the deal was locked, and she'd pressed a little too hard a few times. They were just as willing to refuse Motoko entirely, and just blacklist her, Hiromi had learned, so she'd softened her approach, and had played up the potential instead. The real question isn't if stand-alone complex has good music. It's if anyone wants to hear it. Charles asked, once again trying to muddy the waters, and lower Hiromi's demands. It's not a bad point. Anyone with a bit of talent can play a club, but do they really make eddies? Do they have star power? Ian Carver from MSM of all places asked. The man had a rumpled business suit, and smelled of the liquor he'd been drinking at the bar, but his eyes were clear, and it was MSM. Practically the biggest label in the city. Some of the big names. Us cracks, Motoko had mentioned Carrie Uridine once or twice. Hiromi just smirked. She'd set up for this. A rocker boy had to do more than just play music, they had to draw the eye, and then draw some eddies. Why don't we have a look at our VIP area outside, and you can decide for yourself if you think Standalone Complex has star power? She asked, waving her hand outside the door. The private room was good, letting them talk in peace, but Hiromi had faith that Alice had listened. Draw a crowd to the VIP session. Be loud, be a rocker boy, party, get the groupies working. But Hiromi wasn't sure how well it had worked. Motoko. It was a flip of a coin whether she'd listen or not. The third producer, Otonoshi Kawa from Island Records, the smallest of the fish, rose up and the door popped open, and instantly the noise of outside hit them. But it wasn't just normal club noises. There was a sort of hush, and yet noise through it all, and as Hiromi got up and followed she realized that once again the Motoko coin flip hadn't just hit heads or tails, but landed on its side and awed everyone. The VIP area was packed. With half the crowd from downstairs it felt like, seated literally on the ground as Motoko sat against a wall in a chair, the dim lights of the VIP area putting her in stark relief, her guitar in her hand, and she was just playing. Quiet songs, yet her voice coming through clearly, enthralling and gentle, and yet teasingly husky as always. Sexy Motoko voice was really powerful. But Hiromi pushed that need to go sit with the others away and instead sent the smuggest energy she could at the producers. Well, it looks like we've got half the club into the VIP room for the after party, she said, playing up her confidence in seeing what had happened. All three men now were on their feet and checking it out, and she could practically see their eyes rove over the crowd. Each person up here was eddies in the club manager's hands. And with how enthralled they all were, it was more eddies in the future for anyone that could snatch up this rocker boy. What's that song she's playing? Ian Carver asked, the first to speak as all three men were taking in what was going on, and Hiromi didn't know, not one she'd ever heard before. Oh, Motoko writes new songs all the time. I haven't heard this one yet. Shame. She said, honest with the last part. Stupid Motoko, she grumbled, you were supposed to serenade your best chum with all your new songs. Alright, Ms. Mitsunashi, MSM wants standalone complex. Let's solidify the deal. Ian said simply, and Hiromi could feel the eddies start flowing in, as the other two men turned to glare at their rival. Hey, don't think just beach dash. Ignore them. I'm taking the band. Sorry Charles, CCT had their chance, you hesitated, when you should have leapt. The rumpled-suited man mocked, then he turned his glowing eyes, green and pink of all things swirling around and locked them onto Hiromi. I'll agree to most of your conditions, let's get the contract done. Hiromi smirked like a shark. Most? Well, let's see if she couldn't play him off on the others for a bit more than most of her conditions. Hiromi realized that with this, everything would change. She still had so much homework to do tonight. Chapter 234. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. I groaned as I rolled over, throwing my pillow over my head. There goes my potential 8 hours. Hiromi. I grumbled as she kept cheerfully calling out, bouncing up and down on my bed. It's time to wake up, Motoko. We have so much to do. She called out, and I just grumbled a bit. What time was it? The fact I hadn't woken up naturally after 8 hours meant it was super early. Hiromi, it's early. I grumbled as I sat up, looking at my chum who was practically buzzing with excitement. She looked like someone had given her some of those super dangerous energy drinks. Did you even sleep? A little. But we have our meeting with MSM Records. We have to go in and sign. Come on, come on, come on. Do we have to do it this early? Yes. This was the time we agreed to head in. Do you need an energy drink? Breakfast? Are you too tired? She suddenly shifted from leaping on me to worried. What? No, it's fine. Not the first time I've been woken up early. I yawned as I stretched out, letting the play of muscles flow through me, from my fingers down through my chest to my core, to my legs to my toes. Alright, let me get ready. What's so important about doing this so early? Shouldn't rocker boys get a don't do anything until afternoon pass? Hiromi scoffed at my joke as I slipped out of bed and started looking for a pair of jeans. Crap, had I forgotten to do laundry? Sweaty, dirty jeans were probably not a great first impression to a bunch of corpos. Then again, I smiled. It's not like I cared, and I doubt they did too. I found a mostly clean pair, and under Hiromi's not so pleased I shook them out and slipped in. Really, Motoko? I forgot to do laundry. I've had a busy week. I argued, and Hiromi looked so disappointed in me for a moment. We should stop at a clothing store, we can buy a new pair before we get there. Hiromi, I'm not buying a new pair of jeans just to meet some corpo guys and sign a contract. I argued, as I turned and continued getting ready, pointedly ignoring Hiromi's glare. We pulled into the MSM Records parking garage, and found a spot, Hiromi taking care of the parking pass and everything. Apparently, we were already keyed into their security. Either way, I found a spot and stepped out, feeling the slight stretch of brand new jeans as I moved. Hiromi was acting so smug. Ignoring that we both walked over to a security checkpoint, that after they scanned us we were waved inside. Alice and the others are already here. They didn't have to stop for clothes. Hiromi whispered the last part at me, so I jabbed her with an elbow, earning a yelp. Yep, if only someone hadn't started cry dash. I didn't. It was an effective tactic to get what I wanted. She argued, and I looked at her. That hadn't been faux crying. I reached over and patted Hiromi on her head, which made her get a little red as she puffed up at me. This has to go perfect, she whispered, demanding, and I nodded. I know. Hiromi worked super hard on this, so I'll do what I can to make sure it all goes perfectly. Yes, exactly. Motoko worked hard on this too, so I'd hate to have all her work go in the dumpster because of stinky jeans. They weren't stinky. I hissed, and Hiromi just sent me a smug look as the elevator door opened. Welcome to MSM Records. A well-dressed secretary called out as we stepped off from the elevator. Oh, hello. Motoko Kusanagi, and manager Hiromi Mitsunashi. We've been expecting you. The woman called out, and I nearly flinched at just how chipper she sounded. Thank you, Hiromi said confidently as she strode forward. Our meeting should already be ready? Yes, ma'am. Please follow our guide to the office. She waved to our right, where another woman was already waiting, offering us a little bow and a big smile. And of course a very low neckline. Right, this was a record company. Of course they knew what their usual clients would be like. We followed the woman down the hall, and then we could hear the noise before we reached it. The boys Jared and Klein both were making a fuss of some sort. I could just barely recognize their voices. Then we were guided to the door and it swung open. Apologies for the interruption. Motoko and Hiromi are here. The guide called out and stepped aside, letting us enter. Yo! Motoko! Come and check this out. Jared called out. He was still wearing his rockaway setup, with all his flashy lighted clothing. There was a person I didn't know sitting up against the desk in the middle of the room. Ian Carver, the rumpled man, looked slightly less rumpled than last night, and he was sitting back watching everything with a sharp look in his eye. Alice was actually the one to fill me in. This is Rainey. She's the lead for Point Break Candy. She gushed, and I just nodded, looking the woman over. Nice to meet you. Hey, you as well. Welcome to MSM. Ian is the one that found me as well. So he asked me to be here for the meet and greet. She offered, languidly. Her smile was fairly fake. I don't think she really wanted to be here, but she was trying at least. Rainey here is working on a new single. Everything we've heard is that it's going to hit the top of the charts. Ian spoke, smiling with a sharpness like a shark. But we aren't here just to talk up the talent of MSM Records, or just how much we can help a new musician rise to the top. We're here because Standalone Complex is joining our illustrious family. There was already a contract on the table, and I noticed it was already opened, and it looked like Alice, Klein, and Jared had already signed. Hiromi sent them a look because of it, but she moved forward like a shark herself, smiled just as sharp. Of course, Ian. We're all here because we can help each other make a whole load of eddies. Hiromi said, cutting to the heart of the matter. She picked up the contract and started looking through it, obviously going to specific sections and nodding pleased. You'll find it's the contract we agreed upon last night. No need to rock the boat now. You got what you wanted, Ms. Hiromi. Good. She said firmly, and then looked at me. You just need to sign. Sure, let me just sign my soul away. I mumbled as I walked over. I trusted Hiromi though, and honestly, even if I read through this stupid contract I wouldn't understand it. They were made that way. So I flowed my signature across the page. Besides, there was a secret to contracts and laws and things that most people didn't like to accept. If you murder enough people, they weren't worth the paper they were printed on. I smiled at the man behind the desk as I finished my signature. Well, congratulations then, Rainey said, her wild hair shifting as she leaned off the desk. Welcome to the MSM family. I hope we end up working together, and hope we don't end up competing. She said, offering a wink at the boys when she said that, earning smiles from them both. Thanks, I said, even though I had no idea what was going to happen next. What a shift. I just signed a contract to make music for a record label. What was I thinking? I killed people for a living. And now my new friends and family, we celebrate. Ian called out, and the door opened, and in came a cart pushed by the guide woman with alcohol. Lots of alcohol. Hell yeah. Klein called out, arms rising up into the air, showing off his bare chest and cyberware as he rose to get a drink. It only took a second, but I noticed the guide woman was already flirting with him. I rolled my eyes, but Alice instead shifted to Rainey, looking almost awestruck as she awkwardly tried to chat, and looked super excited when the woman responded positively, and soon Alice was asking all sorts of questions about Rainey's path through MSM. I ignored the drinks, and noticed Hiromi was chatting with Ian. Setting up plans and plots already from what I could hear. Geez, how did I get myself into this sort of thing? Unfortunately, while the party seemed to carry on in the background, the actual meeting wasn't over, and there were plans. Thankfully Hiromi took care of most of it. Ian wanted standalone complex in MSM Studio to record an official album, along with a sound editor to spice them up, and all that sort of thing. That wasn't where it ended though. No, I argued back, as Ian had offered an in-studio ripper, along with some sponsored chrome. I already have a ripper, and he's the only one I trust, and I can't just put in garbage. I'm a merc. Well, there are some issues with your chrome, Motoko. Ian offered, kindly, but I noticed he was basically ignoring what I had said. We don't have a deal with Arasaka to sponsor their chrome, so that neural link has got to go. And maybe some adjustment to your arms? We do have a great deal with Kuroshi. Feel like getting a real upgrade? I looked at the man with my face blank. Of course that goes for all of you. Any of you want a pair of brand new Kuroshi? Ian offered, and I could see Alice and the others were interested. Heck, so was I. I still had a pair of old MK.1s an upgrade, especially a free one sounded preem. I shook my head. I'm not changing my chrome. I said bluntly, so there was no confusion. Come now, Motoko, it's not like we won't pay for the upgrades. You're one of us now, we're going to take care of you, but there are some things we will need in turn. Surely you like the idea of some custom work? Those arms of yours, they're pretty standard, how'd you like something a bit more high-end? Trust me kid, if you've never had really custom work done, it's completely different. I felt my fists clench at the mention of my arms. The rubber pads rubbing together over and over as I was really thinking about showing him just how good my arms were. Ian. Hiromi spoke cutting in as she sidled up to me. While I do appreciate what you are saying, and of course we will take MSM's request under advisement, let's not push such things so quickly. Motoko's chrome is as much a part of her as her ability to play the guitar. Let's give her some time to adjust, and maybe show her what you have in mind first. I blinked at Hiromi as I pouted at her, and she shot me a smile. Well, I don't know about Motoko, but I wouldn't mind some upgrades. Alice offered, smiling as she leaned against the table. What else does MSM have to offer her rocker boys besides Kuroshi? Lovely. We have a few brand deals, there is a small cost, a few interviews and the like, maybe some modeling work, but that's part of the package already. In turn we can get top-of-the-line custom work. You want your persona to have a certain flair, I promise Kuroshi, and our other partners are more than happy to work with you. He said, and Alice lit up. I relaxed, yeah, I already knew this was going to be part of it. But I swear to God if he ever said something about my look being workshopped I was going to throat chop him. The idea of a group of random people with terrible attitudes deciding what I should look like filled me with utter disgust. I just needed this to be over so I could get back to focusing on the Militech gig. I think I'll take a nice break after this and do some exploring the showroom's security. Hey! I broke in, suddenly getting Ian's attention. Do you have a deal with Militech? There is something I always wanted to do, but never could. We have a brand deal with a few Militech subsidies. You'd be surprised at how often a music video needs some military equipment. But we also work with Kunishita Chipware, Klemperer Photo-Optical Systems, and Combat Fashion Incorporated. I've never heard of any of those. I admitted, and Ian smiled. Then we obviously haven't been doing a good enough job. Perhaps you'll become the face of our corporate partnership? He said, his smile stretching out, and I felt like he was plotting. Maybe, anyways, I always wanted to check out the Militech showroom. Ah, well, that's a bit of an odd request, but hell, why not? Perhaps in exchange we can talk about some minor changes to your chrome? He asked, and I bit back my denial. We can talk about it. No promises. Excellent. I'll send an email out to set it up, but let me not make the four of you think that is the extent of what MSM is about. How about we continue to celebrate by visiting our studios, and you can see just what becoming part of the MSM family will do for your career. I sighed and followed as everyone excitedly headed out of the room, hands still full of drinks, although I noticed the guide taking the push cart of booze and following along with us. Geez. The studio was nice though. Free. I shouted as I flopped onto the couch. My life was so fucked up. Welcome home, Motoko. How was MSM? June asked me. He'd watched as I crashed into the apartment, and stomped over to the couch to flop face forward onto it without saying a word until then. I feel like I sold my soul to the devil and everyone is congratulating me. It's fine, I guess. I'll just kill them if they ever fuck me over. You? Everything is normal, come on, talk to me about it. He prompted, reaching over and nudging my shoulder. They want me to change chrome. That's good. Rocker boys tend to get really high-end stuff. They get high-end flashy junk. I like substance. You'll be able to get both. If they try to give you scop, then just don't take it. He rumbled and I rolled over so I was looking up at him. It felt weird. It's something new, you'll get used to it. Do they talk to you about? Is it recording an album, or are you just taking your already recorded songs and doing that? They want to re-record everything. I've got the feeling I'll be fighting the sound editor constantly to not fuck with my songs. But it should be pretty fun. They want me to replace my arms. I mentioned quietly, a little annoyed at how pushy they were about it. You should, your arms are condors, right? Those were only ever meant to be temporary. I like them. They're tough, and they do everything arms can do. You could get better, you know? I know. I like 'em. They're mine. I argued and June just reached over and patted me on the shoulder. Whatever you want is what's important. He decided, using his "I'm a wise older brother" voice. Maybe I should. They're not exceptionally functional. I keep them mostly 'cause they're tough, but I could get something stronger. Strong is good. It feels wrong to change myself because some corpo said I should. Hiromi. Doesn't count. I argued back at his deadpan word. Well, whatever you end up choosing, I know it'll be a good choice. You get worried about the weirdest stuff sometimes. Yeah, well. I did get a benefit. Oh yeah? I wanted to go to the Militech showroom. Ooh. June said, perking up a bit as well. Seriously? Yeah. Okay, don't tell anyone, don't even breathe about it. I might be scoping the place out for a heist. What? June's flat statement had me laugh. So they have a storeroom under the showroom. There is a lot of high-end equipment down there, and I might be considering breaking in and stealing some stuff. Motoko. I know it's dangerous, but they have some crazy stuff that I want. Motoko. I've never been more proud of you in my entire life. He said, almost sniffling, and then reached out and pulled me into a hug. Fuck off. I shouted, jabbing at him. What an asshole. Okay. Easy with the punches, you gorilla. I'll show you, gorilla. I growled at him, but he held up his hands. I'm joking. Well, not exactly. Are you sure? That sounds really dangerous, and you got your rocker boy job now. Anything they might have, you can just wait a little bit and buy it. Right? I hesitated, because June saying something like that was. If June could register it was dangerous, that was saying something. I know, but I had the idea before all of this, and I still want to do it. Alright. Damn. I'm in. June. I'm not asking for help. Yeah, but I want in anyways. You can't do something that preem without bringing me in. I looked at his stupid smug face and rolled my eyes. If I do bring you in, you can't actually tell anyone, June. The whole point is to do it without Militech ever finding out who did it. The only person that will ever know besides me is Yoko, who is giving me some data to get the job done, and she wants something from inside the storeroom. I still want in. He argued and I sighed. Fine, I'll let you know. Nah. That's Motoko talk for I'm going to forget to tell you. I'm helping, so what do you need? To visit the showroom and get a sense for things on the inside, then I need to do some net dives and check the security from that end. Then probably make or buy some equipment to turn off the security, or let me bypass it all. I explained, ticking off my fingers. Preem. He said, and he sounded like an excited kid. I just rolled my eyes. Fine. I guess I could use some help with it. But probably just on the exfiltrating. Depending on the security, only I might be able to actually sneak in. Whatever, he said, and I just rolled my eyes again. The next day I woke up after actually sleeping for 8 hours with a weird sense. I had work? Like work that wasn't something I chose to do. I had hours that I had to go into the studio and work. Like a job. Me. Who the hell decided to give me a job? I'm crazy. I groaned and actually rolled off the bed. First I needed to clean up and get ready. I was in the middle of my shower when Hayato texted me. Hayato, a car will arrive to pick you up tomorrow evening. I will see you then. Please be on your best behavior. I do not want you to embarrass yourself, or me, Motoko, what are you talking about? I'm perfect. I never embarrass anyone. Tongue sticking out I laughed as I could practically feel the way Hayato was probably slamming her agent trying to send a message arguing the exact opposite as I finished washing out the shampoo in my hair. Hayato, that is not true. Motoko, I'll be a good girl. I got a fancy kimono and everything. Don't worry. I won't even kill anyone. Wakako still pays me not to murder the only one I really want to Hayato, you are difficult. I will see you tomorrow, I laughed as I got out of the shower. Hayato really was a riot. Today was work, lots of music and recording and arguing with people, and tomorrow I'd be heading to the Tiger Claw's big end of the year bash, and dealing with that. I should just disappear and live in a cardboard box in an alley. Maybe Morgan Blackhand was secretly right? Considering it for a bit as I got dressed, I reminded myself that cardboard boxes weren't comfortable and didn't have AC or a couch to flop on. So that was right out. So instead of disappearing into the city to live on the streets and live as a ghost, I guess I had work. Like a job. Me. Seriously, I was crazy and I wouldn't give myself a job. Ian must be insane. Chapter 235. Okay, I think I got the style right. Hiromi whispered as she played with my hair. Hiromi, it's just a hairpiece. It has to be perfect. She argued, but I think she was just having fun playing with my hair. I just let her. I wasn't in a rush anyways, my kimono was put on, and I was done up. It honestly was pretty cool. The fact I had a katana lying beside me really made me want to draw it and see what my range of motion would be, but Hiromi would yell at me. I wonder if I would get into a sword fight today. That'd be fun. I've never had a sword fight in a kimono before. Ow. I hissed as Hiromi thwacked me on the top of my head with a fan of all things. Hiromi. I know that look. Everything is going to go perfectly. Remember, you're a rocker boy now, with an actual contract, don't let them push you around. But maybe talk to some of them about a TC deal. The Tigers could help set up concerts and distribution. Hiromi. Fine. Just ignore all that like you were going to anyway, and try to act composed. Hayato-sama could be a very useful contact. I'll tell her you said that. Don't you dare. She hissed and I laughed as I reached up and fought Hiromi's hand for a moment before helping her finally push the hairpiece in place, noticing in the mirror we were sitting in front of her, face going a bit red in anger. I'll be careful, and as much as Hayato screams at me, we're friends, so it'll be okay. If anything goes wrong, I'll have a katana, and more importantly, it'll all go okay because no one at the party is going to want to cause trouble in front of their boss. If you say so. I do. Now, help me up? I asked, holding my hands up, and she huffed and walked around in front of me, and I grabbed her hands and mostly just got up on my own, as otherwise I'd tug Hiromi right into me. It'd be funny, but she'd kill me in this big old kimono. The car should be here soon. Then get down there. Hiromi said, squeezing my hands for a moment. Even if they were chrome, I could still feel it. I'll see you after? Yes. You have to tell me everything. No, better yet. Get a BD. No, wait, don't do that, they might get angry. Bye, Hiromi. I called out as I moved away from her rambling. Okay, now the annoying part. I looked myself over in the mirror for a second. Flowery hairpiece, it was kinda cute, but it hid my short hair by tugging everything back. My dark blue, almost purple kimono looked nice, and the fancy katana at my hip fit in well. I sighed and then moved. I had a set of get of all things at the door to slip into, so I wouldn't muss the white socks I was wearing. "You got this, Motoko?" Hiromi yelled as I walked out, and I couldn't help but chuckle. By the time I made it to the garage, a fancy car was in fact pulling in, and when it stopped in front of me, the door opened revealing Hayato herself. Her kimono compared to mine was night and day, but she looked me over with a blur of her eyes and then nodded. "Acceptable." Yeah, you got me in this monkey suit, let's go," I told her, as I slipped in, the door closing on its own behind me. "It is not a monkey suit. It is a dash." "Hayato." I interrupted her, and smiled as I leaned in. "I'm just joking. It looks cute. I like yours too. The hairpiece suits you." It was my mother's. "It's lovely," I told her, reaching over and patting her hand, which she puffed up at but didn't say anything. The ride was quiet for a little bit as Hayato seemed to be a little distracted, but eventually she spoke. "Stick close to me during the party. I wish to make sure everyone is reminded that you work for me," she said, and clenched her hand around my own tight for a second. What is it with Hiromi and Hayato, both holding my hand today? "Sure. There will be a snack table though, right? 'Cause dash." "Yes, there will be snacks." She snapped at me in a rush, glaring and puffing up, and then getting even redder in anger as I was smiling brightly at her. "You are messing with me." "I am," I assured her honestly. "Don't worry. I'm here because you invited me. I'm not really a tiger claw, which you know. So I'll hang around a while and do the show-off thing." You should be proud of being a tiger claw." She grumbled at me, but I shook my head. "I'm an assassin. I'll do gigs for you, because you're my friend, but I'm definitely not tiger material." She took a moment, eyes narrowed at me before scoffing. "We shall see." The rest of the drive was mostly quiet. Hayato was breathing slowly, seemingly getting herself ready for what was coming, and I didn't disturb her, while I did something similar. Ugh. This was going to get so awkward. Finally we pulled into a garage area, and I noticed right away that the place wasn't empty. Tiger claw motorcycles and vehicles littered every inch of the garage, and gang members sat on them, or hung around. We joined a stream of vehicles that entered, and each stopped disgorging men and women in suits and fancy dresses. When it was our turn, I stepped out, feeling eyes on me. I scanned around, but everything was clear, and I stopped and held out a hand for Hayato. She took it and lifted herself out of the car. She strode forward, chin tilted up, seeming confident, and I followed. Up into the elevator, that was held open for us. Nakagawa-sama. The man that was already inside with his date greeted us with a solid bow. "Kojima. I wish you fortune." "And I you." He offered back, and I joined beside Hayato, noticing the girl the man had on his arm was a doll. Poor thing, she probably wouldn't remember any of tonight when she got home. "It is a pleasure to see you join us this year, Nakagawa-sama. Will you be joining your Nakagawa-sama for the declaration?" "I will, Kojima. Today I stand with Otosama." "Excellent. I will look forward to seeing your flourish, Ujo-sama." "Humph." She huffed at the older man's pretty words, and I had to fight to keep the smile off my face. He called her princess. She totally was the Yakuza princess. The elevator pinged, and I noticed Hayato shift, standing straighter, her arms shifting, those long kimono sleeves adjusted to practically flare around her as she looked at me for a moment, and I nodded. Then we stepped out, Kojima standing back as she stepped out first, and I followed. This thankfully was familiar. It was the same high-end apartment area that I'd been dragged to before, only this time everything was fancy and decorated. The security checkpoint was still there, and as we approached I grumbled a bit as I was obviously scanned, and I had to sigh and adjust myself. It had taken a bit of work to get the barrier properly sandwiched, but with a bit of work that had Hayato growing redder and redder, I pulled the heavy pistol out of where I had crammed it in, and then dropped it heavily onto the little bin that had been held out for me. Everyone was looking at me, but I shrugged. A lady should always carry a weapon capable of dealing with a heavy cyborg. I informed the attendant, who looked from me to the barrier before looking back at me, and bowing. Motoko. Hayato said, her voice a bit quavering in anger, but I shrugged. I had to at least try. I admitted to her as we walked past, only a glance given to my katana as I shuffled after Hayato, who was a bit huffy after that. Then we walked into the main room. The apartment had been done up like a ballroom. Lights strewn above us, and beautiful women and well-dressed men were in every corner. Some of them weren't even TC. I think I saw a few semi-famous faces hanging around, which was a bit weird. Hayato stepped forward and the crowd of course parted for her as she headed deeper in, and yet, she walked slow enough for me to keep pace. So I figured that was my role. I shifted to be at her side, my eyes flashing over the crowd as if prepared to deal with any enemies. I could totally play the role of the loyal samurai bodyguard. At the least it was more fun than just hanging around doing nothing. Hayato. The whiskey and smoke voice of Hayato's father called out, and Hayato walked through the spread crowd to stand before the well-dressed man. Seriously, it was kinda unfair. The guy looked stupidly handsome. Otusama. Good, I am glad you arrived. Look Ottawa, my daughter has truly blossomed, she will stand beside me tonight. The man said, turning to the suit-clad man he had been talking with. Not someone I recognized, to be honest. We are honored by Nakagawa-sama's presence tonight. Thank you, Ottawa. I wish you a pleasant holiday. Your words are too kind. The man offered with a bow. I just stood there. At least I could fall into the bodyguard role. It made this whole thing a little less embarrassing now I was being spoken to. Kusanagi Motoko, I hope you find the party pleasant? I know some people, so it's not terrible. I admitted, probably a bit too bluntly as Hayato glared at me. Shinobu just smiled, and damn was even his half-smile handsome. Stupid handsomes. You are here as a guest of honor, so I hope at least that our party will be more than not terrible. There is another matter, Hayato, show Motoko to the guest room. Hagihara-sama is waiting. Hayato didn't quite jolt at the words, but I could see the way her body reacted under the kimono like she wanted to. I understand, Otusama. I will do so now. Come, Motoko. Hayato said, her voice blurring a bit as she was excited. She was so excited she actually reached out and grabbed my hand to tug me along. I just rolled my eyes and let her, and waved to the men as I was pulled away. I think I was surrounded by girls that really liked bossing me around. Who is Hagihara? I asked, but Hayato just sent me a smug look and pulled me along. While there were a few stops, as men and women spoke to Hayato, she thankfully kept the conversations brief as she moved on. Then we headed up a set of stairs to the next floor, which was set up like a quiet pavilion, and I noticed Wakako was sitting up here at one of the tables set out. But Hayato just nodded at her grandmother as she tugged me along, and I just sent a helpless shrug. Then we came to a door and Hayato stopped and knocked on the door. A word in Japanese was called out, and Hayato opened the door carefully, in a very Japanese style, as she guided me inside. The room was mostly empty, but not bare. And a man sat in Seiza in the center, a very old man. I glanced him over. He had cyberware, but it was odd. Only one eye was an optic. One arm was entirely chrome and it ran all the way to his chest, just like my own. He'd lost his arm? Or was the look intentional? His hakama? Kimono? Dang it, I always hated trying to remember what it was called. His top was half off, showing the flesh of his stomach, and the chrome that riddled his older body, but the guy was fit. And what caught my eye was the set of katana that stood out before him. They were fancy black lacquer, but they weren't completed. I couldn't remember what they were called, but the wooden sheath the sword was placed in was just bare white wood, and it was meant to store a katana when not in use. The man's optic glared at me, its iris shifting and growing and shrinking. He was scanning me. No, he was scanning the sword on my hip. He spoke again and Hayato replied in Japanese, and I just felt left out. Sorry, I don't speak Japanese. I said finally, and the man went still as he stared at me, only his optics seemed to shift glaring at me, while the rest of his face was made of granite for all it shifted. Ugh. Motoko, get a language chip if you dash. Hayato started to hiss at me before stopping and shaking her head. She instead spoke to who I could only assume was Hagihara. I speak English. the man said, in very broken English. Fairly confident he did not in fact speak English. As you wish, Hagihara-sama. Hayato replied, but I moved forward, and then knelt in front of him. With an easy motion I pulled the sheathed sword from my hip and offered it to him. He'd never really taken his eye off it. He said nothing but reached out and took it, unsheathing it without hesitation and looking the blade over. It is. How do you say? Trash. He said, seemingly coming to his decision. Yeah, but it was a blade that was trying to kill me. So it's mine now. He nodded at that. And then he resheathed it, and offered it back to me. Show me. Take. Hold. He said, seemingly finding the words, and I nodded. I pulled the blade in a quick motion and then while still kneeling held it in both hands. He took a look at my grip as I scanning and then without a single motion he seemed to get to work. Reaching out to grab the top katana from the stand that had been in front of him, and pulled the blade free from the wooden sheath, I felt myself stiffen. The blade was beautiful. I wasn't a connoisseur of swords. If it was metal, and mostly sharp, I was fairly satisfied. My Arasaka Brittlest thermal katana was still my favorite after all, but a part of my blade skill was knowledge on handling and use of blades, and you can't use a blade properly if you couldn't read the weaknesses of a blade. Where the cutting point was, where the weight would jerk a blade out of your hand, or if it would snap if stabbed into some gonk. I'd seen some fancy katana, but there was a fancy katana, and then there was a functional sword. Built by a master. The wave in the blade. Hammon? That sounded right, was something beautiful, like a fire flickering across the edge. You, cut words. He said in broken English as he pulled the blade free of the wood and placed it gently on the cloth in front of him, and then he seemed to set to work, pulling out pieces of a hilt, and right there, with tolls he pulled from around him with clean cuts with his chrome hand he cut the wood, and even steel plates, that he began fixing into the wood. Blade, cut only, want. Those were certainly words. I don't know what cutting words had to do with anything, but of course I only cut what I want. I nodded, and he continued to work, his hands a literal blur, as the hilt was put together in moments, the speed of a man backed by cyberware, and the experience of a master. Just there as I watched, he fixed the length of the handle, finished putting it together, and slipped the tang of the katana into the handle, along with a hand guard that he pulled from a pocket within his hakama. Then he pulled what I could only assume was some sort of silk, and began wrapping it. It only took a few minutes, longer as he finished the wrap, and a real sheath was already prepared and the blade slipped inside. The whole time I was shooting glances at Hayato, who was being a good girl, staying still and stoic, but I could tell she was interested too. You can say, a blade, worthy. He offered it to me, and I couldn't help but swallow a little. I reached out and took the blade from him, instantly I could feel the balance, even in the sheath it was perfect. I put my hand on the hilt and you reinforced it. So I wouldn't damage the wood with my grip. I said, the slightly heavier bits of steel in the hilt. It had been because in the age of cyborgs, if you just used normal wood, you'd end up cracking the hilts if you squeezed too hard. He stared at me, and then slowly glanced at Hayato, who quickly translated, much to my amusement. Hi. He said finally. Then he started putting everything away. I watched for a moment, but Hayato rose up and bowed. Arigato Hagihara-sama. The old man grunted once in response. I looked at the katana in my hands. It's the finest blade I've ever seen. I told him, and his eyes glanced to me, and he nodded. I rose and slipped the shiny fancy sheath into the slot in my obi that Musashi's shitty katana had been in before, then I sighed and it felt a bit wrong, but I slipped that blade in with it. Turning I left the room, nothing else needed to be said. I stepped out and noticed Wakako again and rose an eye at her, as Hayato came out behind me. Decided to see both parts of the entertainment, Wakako? Perhaps. She offered, glancing at my sword with interest, but I didn't unsheath it. She shrugged at my refusal to give her a peek. Hayato. Your father wants to show off Motoko before the meeting begins. Yes, grandmother. Come, Motoko. I didn't ask or anything, but I sort of expected to have to pay for this. You are paying for it. Wakako offered bluntly. You will be shown as a wild pony, a sign of Japanese superiority to those present. Do well, and the payment will be in full. And if I fail? Don't. You are not wealthy enough. I scoffed at Wakako's blunt response and nodded at her. Hayato pulled me along and down we went back down the stairs and into the main room, where Shinobu was easily holding court among everyone here. The center of attention, even as he casually talked with those around him. Ah, excellent. He spoke as he saw Hayato. I see that Hagihara-sama had no issue providing a blade to our young Kensei. He spoke warmly, and his voice carried despite his lack of any shouting. Hayato puffed up proudly as she looked from me to her father. Indeed, Hagihara-sama worked diligently. As he always does. Young Kusanagi, how is it? It's the finest blade I've ever seen. I admitted, feeling the weight of the blade on my hip, and he smiled. Perhaps you would be willing to reveal your blade to those present? I believe, yes, there it is. A pair of well-dressed men pulled out a stand with a tatami cutting mat wrapped around it. It was brought out and placed, and secured, and it was obvious this was all part of the show. Motoko? A voice quietly whispered out, and I looked away from Shinobu to see June. Hey June. I greeted him casually, as I walked up to the cutting post. He was standing next to Fujimura and I could see the absolutely lost look on his face as Fujimura looked from June to me, before he seemed to sigh and started whispering to June. I, though, wasn't here just to say hi to June. I walked up to the cutting post, and looking to Shinobu, the man gave me a nod, and I could see just how many people were watching, so right then, the moment he nodded, without any extra movements, no adjusting my stance first or gripping the hilt. Sliding my feet on the tatami floors, my hands gripped sheath and hilt, and I drew. The sound of the cut was dead silent, but there was a noise as the head of the post flopped onto the floor having been cut free. I held the cut for a moment after and then slowly resheathed the blade. I'd barely felt the blade cut through the tatami cutting mat. This was a very sharp blade. Excellent. Truly excellent. A new Kensei born here in Night City. Our very own homegrown blade master. Shinobu called out, and I got a few quiet claps at the performance. Perhaps the Daravaja dojo might see a young Kensei going to perfect her craft further, and of course show those with the proper mindset the right way to cut. He called out, and I realized that was purposeful. He'd just set me up as a sort of teacher at the dojo. Or at least the potential of me doing that. I kept my face calm, not showing any irritation. And thankfully not long after, Shinobu shifted the attention from me, as I stepped back into the crowd towards where Hayato was waiting, getting congratulations at my accomplishment, from men and women I literally wouldn't even hesitate to kill if it came down to it. What a weird situation. Motoko. The heavy hand on my shoulder made me look up. What's up, June? What are you doing here? What do you mean, Kensei? What the fuck? He hissed quietly at me, and I blinked. What? Chapter 236. I can explain. Do it then. He hissed at me as he tugged my shoulder away from the crowd and towards a quieter section of the room. I noticed Hayato was following, looking a little irritated at the interruption, but I sent her an apologetic shrug around June's stupid fat. What are you doing here? I was invited. Yeah, I figured. How? Why? He whispered and I threw a hand at Hayato, who June noticed and instantly stood up straight. Offering her a bow. Nakagawa-sama. Kusanagi. We have not had a chance to speak before. Hayato offered, and June bowed even lower. I have never had that honor. Your sister did not tell you she was coming? She did not. Oops. I replied airily, it wasn't like it mattered. June shot me a look telling me it did. Motoko. You should inform your brother about these things. Hayato argued and June sent me a smug look that I really wanted to wipe off his dumb face. I just forgot. You forgot to mention this. He hissed and I pointedly ignored him. It was his fault that he didn't know, and I wouldn't accept any other fact. I nodded smugly, and June's eyes narrowed as if he was reading my mind. Get out of my head, June. Ow. I hissed as he bonked me on the head, struggling to fight against the desire to rub my head as that would mess up my hair. I sent him a glare. Pfft, the noise could only be one thing and I turned to shoot Hayato a look, as she hid her face behind the edge of her sleeve. Don't laugh. I'm not. she said in a rush, the words coming out in a blur. Heh. She had totally laughed. I just did not expect your relationship with your brother to be so physical. I beat June's ass out. Stop that. I hissed and June just sent me a glare back. Don't talk shit then. He said before stilling as he realized he cursed, and looked at Hayato. She didn't mind. She had a potty mouth anyways when she was surprised. I can't beat your ass in this fancy dress, the lady that sold it to me will kill me if I mess it up. Then stop trying to start a fight. He growled back and then we both shifted and looked away. His voice had been loud enough that lots of the party-goers were looking at us now. Quick Motoko, you have lots of powerful people all watching you make a fool of yourself, do something smart. Snacks? I asked, and June nodded. Hayato just sent the two of us a look as June cleared a path for the snack table. You coming? I asked Hayato, and she rolled her eyes, but did follow. You are unbelievable. She finally said as we walked across the room. What? Nakagawa-sama. You are looking as beautiful as ever, is that a new Korenzakov? A man asked, stopping us halfway, and Hayato shook her head. Only some new connectors I had installed this year. Ah, Kuzo, have you met Night City's newest Kensai? Motoko Kusanagi, her work under my employ should be known to you. Haha. I have not had the pleasure, but I have heard of her. Kaneda Tsukamura's death was quite the talk. A legacy that overstepped himself. The dishonor the boy laid upon his father's name. The man shook his head. Tsukamura Ajizan was a good man, his death when Kaneda was a boy is the cause of his failures. He is not at fault. Hayato offered sternly, and the older man, Kuzo, smiled at Hayato's words. Indeed. So the young Kensai, acting under our air? It is good you gather strong people to yourself, Hayato-sama. I must, if I am to lead us, Kuzo. She said firmly, and the old man smiled in response. I kept glancing towards the snack table though. June was already pigging out, and he was sending me smug looks all the while. Asshole. But I remained by Hayato's side and did my guard duty routine as I waited for her to finish up so I could escape to the snacks. When the conversation finally ended, I got one step towards the table with Hayato when someone else interrupted and called out to her. Oh no. But snacks. There was a lot of attention on me throughout the party, but standing next to Hayato actually ended up protecting me. Everyone that walked up was required to talk to her first, and usually give her far more attention. The fact she was introducing me as in her employ also seemed to shoo some of the interested men away. I wasn't really sure why they were so interested in me. A kensei was cool, I guess, but it wasn't like these guys didn't have hired guns numbering in the dozens or hundreds. Finally Hayato managed to get me to the snack table, and as I was scarfing down she told me. It's simple. Hayato said to me, looking at me like I was an idiot. Which was a bit rude. They are not concerned with you as an assassin, or a hired killer. They simply want the reputation of having a kensei working under them. Ah. I said, then stuffed my mouth with a sushi roll. So it had nothing to do with competence, but just looks. Face culture stuff. Whatever then. Thankfully I had Hayato to cover for me, and while I chewed my sushi down I sent her a smile. She looked a little irritated at me in turn, which was weird. I was trying to convey my thanks, you know? But as things continued, I was just an interesting bauble, and Hayato covered everything else. The party was normal? Like I kept expecting a raid of edge runners or something to crash in. It just never happened. But what did happen was just as deadly, but not my problem at all. A gong was rung, and Hayato urged me away from the snack table. My sweets. I'll come back for you. We crossed the hall, and she settled me into a cushion in the side of the room, while she moved onward up to the front, where her father was already standing. Only now he had a katana on his hip. Okay, the way he was holding himself. The way everyone in the room was suddenly quiet. Things had just gotten spicy. This year has been a success. He called out, and there was a hush of relief over the room as a few even clapped. Income streams, and even our numbers have risen despite the wars we have fought. The tiger claws grow. He looked to his other side, and a man that was wearing a suit, looking more like an accountant than a gang member, walked over and offered a small stack of papers. "This is the list of income from all businesses this year." He held them up, and I noticed a few of the tough-looking bosses looked scared. Although some have come in below their target, none have done so without acceptable reasoning. Let me state now. None tonight shall lose their head. Tonight. He repeated, almost snapped the last word, and more than a few men flinched. Oh, some people had been bad gang bosses. Whatever. He shifted, looking at the list, and in that husky sex smoke voice he listed off a name. The man called forward, stepped out of the crowd and bowed before Nakagawa Shinobu, and to my surprise Hayato picked up a lacquered box and opened it, offering it to her father, who took out a red envelope. "You have done well," the biggest boss of the Tigers said, and offered the envelope, which was taken with both hands, head bowed, and the man backed off to his seat, hiding the envelope in his clothes. Huh. What was the envelope, and what was this all about? I watched on, an outsider seeing something I only understood through context clues. Fujimura was called up a while in, and I perked up. June's boss rose up and did just like all the others. A deep bow, basically a kowtow, and taking the red envelope before returning to his seat. June, sitting on Fujimura's right, kept glancing over, but he didn't say or do anything. So June was interested in what was in the envelope as well? Neat. It took a while for the envelope thing to finish up, and then when it was over everyone clapped for each other, like they had just scored a major victory or something. I just shrugged, nothing I could do about all this. Right after Hayato was pulled away by her father, and June was surrounded by goons talking to Fujimura, so I decided I needed a new cover. I got up and headed away, and then up. Scared of the big bad tigers? Wakako asked, tapping her cigarette in an ashtray as she continued to watch on. Only scared of listening to them, I told her honestly as I walked over. Her little seat didn't have any other chairs, which was a bit of a statement, so I just sat up against the banister. Wakako didn't laugh or make a sound, but I could see she was amused anyways. So what's up with the red envelopes? They are rewards for good work. So not money, they seemed bigger than that. No. Property, territory, responsibilities. Each envelope can be a grand reward, a fully working business, or a punishment. A failing business that must be fixed, but still an opportunity for those capable. Huh. Why the envelopes and stuff then? Christmas spirit. Wakako joked, and I snorted, but she hadn't really answered, but I guess that was intentional. So. I got a label deal. I heard. MSM. Wakako said bluntly, and I pouted as I sent her a look. It's not fair when you already know everything. Humph. Will this be the end of our work? A new career will take up much of your time. No, I said firmly, without any hesitation. I'll always be a merc. I think I'd get bored if I didn't go out and get into a gunfight or something from time to time. A waste. You risk your life for something you don't need. I looked at Wakako and scoffed. Was she trying to tell me to stop being a merc? That I should go do a safe job? Are you worried about me, Wakako? She sent me a look that I couldn't help but laugh at. A merc that only does it as a side job is useless. You will overestimate yourself and die. Failing a gig that can impact my own work. Nah. The merc stuff is the main gig, the rocker boy stuff is the side gig. I assured her, and she sent me a look and I sent one right back. Do you think I'm wrong? We will see when the eddies begin following. Pfft. I make plenty of eddies, the only change will be how much I can blow on my next upgrade. I told her, pointing a thumb back at my chest. You make nothing, compared to what you will make. She puffed a drag from her cigarette and nodded towards the area below, where men wearing fancy clothes all spoke and talked to each other. I have watched over these fools for decades. I have seen what eddies will do. Yeah, fair. I agreed with a nod. Money makes people crazy. Which is why I didn't ever look at my bank account unless I was buying chrome. That way I would never think about it. I'm such a genius. I laughed a bit until Wakako shot me a withering look and I slinked away, hands raised. Hopefully this party will be over soon. I can't believe you didn't tell me. June roared as we walked into the apartment. I rolled my eyes at his reaction. He had kept it pretty well as he waited for me to enter fully into the apartment. I forgot. It's not that big a deal. It is, you moron. Don't call me a moron, stupid face. Hey. He snapped out, before going very calm, and tiling his head up, showing off his jawline. My face is great. I just fake gagged and he raised a fist, but I brought mine up in surrender. Sorry. No fighting while I wear the very expensive dress. Where did you even get that thing? Hiromi dragged me to a store when I told her about the invite. Hiromi knew and not me. I'm sorry I didn't tell you. Okay. And the Kensei thing? When? What? Sensei said it. I showed off, and he dragged me to the shrine. I met a couple of old Borgs and they talked with me for a little and said I was a Kensei. That's such bullshit. You aren't even that good with a sword. Better than you. I mumbled under my breath. Which earned me a harsh glare. I'll make you eat those words. Hee hee. Not with my super special Kensei sword. I said and patted the second blade on my hip. June's cheeks puffed out and I stared at my brother. Are you pouting? I'm not. He growled and stomped off into his room. His own fancy clothes were already starting to be pulled off as he walked. Stupid Motoko. Stupid Kensei. Don't be jealous. I'll give you some spars to help you improve. I called after his back and then rushed into my room as June turned around menacingly, intending on throwing me around before stopping and grumbling. Geez, what a grumpy guy. He should be proud of his kid sister. Ah well. I probably should have mentioned it before now. I headed inside my room and sighed in relief. It felt normal. Tachikoma was wandering around and just. All the stress of leading up to this party was gone. It was done. I could get back to doing fun stuff, like the Militech gig I still needed to plan. Of course, then I remembered I still had rocker boy stuff to do. There was a meeting tomorrow with the whole band where we would go over our set list for an album, then work on the songs with a studio producer to fancy them up. I wasn't looking forward to it. I slowly disrobed, carefully folding the kimono on my bed as I pulled myself free from the strict layers. Then once that was down, I put my new Kensei katana on the sword rack I had along with my other two blades. The brutal thermal katana, the overly fancy Musashi blade, and my Kensei katana. I shook it off, pulled the silly pins out of my hair and finally just returned to Motoko. A fresh leotard slipped into one leg at a time, and a quick zip up, and once again I felt like me and not a doll. It was late, but I didn't feel like sleeping. I had a busy day scheduled for tomorrow, and honestly I just wanted to be free for a while. I grabbed my pants and my jacket, tied on my boots and checked my hair to make sure the styling that had been done wasn't giving me a weird hairdo without the pins, and then I grabbed my guns, slipped everything into my holsters. Walking back into the living room, June was already out, his hair slightly damp from where he had washed out the gel he'd used to slick his hair back. Motoko? It's late. I know, going on a midnight drive. Just feeling antsy. Sorry. I said as I walked up behind him and threw my arms around his neck in a hug. I really did just sort of forget, I didn't mean to keep everything from you. I'll try to remember to share better. Pfft. I know. You're an idiot. He offered, patting my arm. Jerk. I said and then kissed his cheek, earning a moan of disgust as I stood up and headed for the door. Don't wait up for me. I don't know how long I'll be out. Be careful. Always. Besides, I'm not in danger, June. I'm the danger. I said darkly, smiling sinisterly as I left the apartment, cackling evilly. Idiot. I heard faintly behind me as I closed the door. Jerk. The noise of Night City quieted a bit this late at night, but never silent. The rumble of my Kusanagi between my legs wiped away all the other sounds though. I drove through the streets just moving, enjoying the ebb and flow of the traffic. I wasn't going anywhere in particular. I honestly had considered going and just raiding some gonks, but it wasn't right for that. I was looking for a fight, and yet not. I'd done So much talking over the last few weeks. Alice and the band, the MSM producers. The Tiger Claws, and their party. I wanted to move. Eventually I found myself pulling into a familiar space. Right across the street was the old apartment. It was weird how weird it felt. June had, somehow, been right. I would never admit that, of course. This place just didn't feel like home anymore, even though it had been the only home I'd known in Night City for the longest time. It felt okay to move on. I slipped off the Kusanagi and headed down the street into the Cherry Blossom Market. The market was, if anything, more active at night. As I walked down the stairs into the market area, I was in a crowd. Just another face. I slipped through the crowd towards the ramen joint. Despite just filling up on expensive sushi, I was kinda hungry again. Taking one of the few empty seats, I flipped a hand, and the owner nodded, already knowing my order. I breathed in, and exhaled, relaxing. I could find a fight another night. Tonight, I was going to calm down with some warm noodles, and a peaceful evening. I should have just gone on a killing spree. I whispered to myself as I sat in a recording booth. Stand-alone complex, we're all eager beavers, listening to what the weird guy in the studio was telling us, but the more I was hearing, the more unhappy I was becoming. Okay, we're going to add some reverb on that note. He called out, and I frowned even more. Yes, I knew that music in 2077 was industrialized, heavily produced and manufactured. Most of it wasn't just someone playing, but 1,000 other things. That sound had its place, but it wasn't meant for everything. I just took a breath, as I listened through the headset as the producer messed with the note, added it back into the track we were working on and played it for us. I instantly scowled. No. That reverb doesn't work, I said, and instantly the whole room groaned. Come on, Motoko. Just let him do his work. Alice asked in a whisper, and I shook my head. If he wants to heavily edit the song, he can do all he wants, but it'll go as an alternate version, and not the main, I said, and the producer in the booth once again took his headset off and started yelling at the poor aide. The guy was absolutely arrogant, and did not like that. Unlike most musicians that came in here, I had control over my songs. Thank you, Hiromi. Of course I still had to allow them to produce as they wanted, but official tracks were mine. They could and likely would butcher the songs I offered, but those would only ever be listed as an alternate, or remake. But it was seriously getting on my nerves. It was like the guy couldn't help but want to alter every verse in some way. A need to put his fingers over every note. Seriously, it's not like I even refused everything. Sometimes his offerings were better. Technology let you do a lot of things a musician in 1990 wouldn't have dreamed of. It also taught me a lot. He just couldn't leave well enough alone. I looked at Alice, who was just totally begging me to let it go. She was firmly in the mindset of letting the professionals do what they were here for. The fact I didn't agree, at all, was causing some frustration. Let's go without the reverb for now. You can try to show it to me after we finish the rest of the track, maybe I'll agree then. I offered as a happy medium, but the producer wasn't even listening. Yelling at his aide, who was just quailing at the man's temper. Great. I really should have just killed someone last night. At least if I had a level up, I'd have something to ponder while we waited. Chapter 237. There, just perfecto. Just keep that look. No, don't touch your hair, it's falling perfectly, ruffled and teenage angsty. No. No, talking you will shift your hair. She demanded from me, as I almost opened my mouth to ask what teenage angsty was supposed to look like. Fucking weirdos, and that was coming from me. Thankfully, even with the bright lights set up, my karoshi were more than capable of adjusting to the glare of camera flashes. Ugh, look at this, even with the picture and my work at its best you are wearing such old chrome, worn. Do you never polish yourself? I pointedly only shifted my eyes to glare, because she was half a second away from telling me not to talk anyways. Ah yes, you can learn, good. She teased. She was lucky I hadn't gone first. If I hadn't seen her treat everyone this way, I'd have introduced my fist to her face at some point. Whatever, just a photo shoot. Just part of the contract, just something tedious and stupid and uncomfortable I had to do. I had actually said no at first, but well, agreeing to be a rocker boy meant I should get used to this sort of thing. It was fine, besides there were some advantages to all this. Okay, you are done. Very good girl, yes? The woman asked, in that thick accent that I was still trying to figure out what it was meant to be. Probably entirely fake just to make herself stand out. I was in that sort of circle right now. Good. I grumbled, and rose up, adjusting myself. They'd absolutely coated my hair in some gunk to give them control, and already an assistant was rushing up to readjust my hair for another shoot, I was sure. I tapped my new jacket. Similar in style to my old one, but this one wasn't an off-the-shelf edition. It had actually been handed to me out of a box when I arrived today. The fact they'd taken my current jacket style and just having an expensive shiny new one made was kinda a flex. Also, it was comfy as fuck. I was pointedly not thinking about how expensive it no doubt was, 'cause I wasn't going to just not roll around in blood and guts when in a gunfight because my jacket was expensive. It would just have to deal with the stains of merc work, it would add realism to it or something, insert corpo buzzword here. Hiromi would know. I looked over the others, Alice, Jared, and Klein had already started taking advantage of all the goodies MSM Records had provided. Most of their chrome had been adjusted, if not swapped out. The cheap GarageBand cyberware was now the expensive chrome of a made rocker boy. I was still sporting my normal stuff, but I was going to bring their catalog to Vic and ask for his advice. Hiromi had finally sort of convinced me that I should take advantage of the offer. It's not like I hadn't already sold my soul to the devil, might as well get a benefit out of it. You look like you're planning to run away. I glanced up, frowning a little at the well-dressed man. He was wearing a suit sort of like what V wore, similar style. Black suit expensive, and chrome just hinted at, enough to show he had eddies to burn. Do I know you? Not yet, but I'm Alex Angelopoulos, just call me Alex. He said, offering a hand. I took it warily and he smiled. Welcome to MSM, I've been hearing good things about you, Miss Kusanagi. Okay? My first impression isn't doing so well, huh? Well, I've been assigned to you as an assistant. I don't need an assistant. I understand, trust me, that's a fairly common reaction, but let me be clear, it's more that I'm a rocker boy wrangler. He chuckled at his own joke. I'll be working with you, and of course Miss Mitsunashi. I'm simply here as a point of contact between MSM and yourself and manager. Think of me as the one that is responsible for making sure you show up to the events, and handle any issues that arise. Isn't that just the manager's job? Only unimportant managers, handling third stringers. We are MSM Records, we only handle true talent. I frowned at the man's confidence, since I smelled some nasty trap here, but I shrugged. Talk to Hiromi, I don't care. Of course Motoko, can I call you Motoko? Whatever dude. Excellent. I'll be helping you with anything you need, are you thirsty? Hungry? We can get a table at Dark Matter if you'd like. I hear Kala Sui from Watson Hor will be there tonight. The fuck would I care? I grunted as I decided now was a good time to walk away from this conversation. Of course the man followed. Not a fan then? I'll make sure to make a note about that. Still, she won't be the only one. Or I could order something in for you? Blue is the finest restaurant in Night City, we could bring in a sample platter from the restaurant, or get a reservation. A few pictures and an endorsement would cover that. I'm good, thanks. I said, walking out the doors of the studio and back out into the sunny Night City afternoon light. I took a minute to break, it was almost suffocating being surrounded by so many people, all of them treating me more like an object than a person. I ran a hand through my still-styled hair. Whatever. I was also supposed to talk to you about a Militech showroom visit? He spoke then, and I actually stopped. I turned to look at the man again, who was just a little too smug. Well? We reached out to Militech, and set it up. There is some discussion about those condors of yours. What about them? I didn't agree to swap my chrome. Not yet, you haven't, and I understand, you've had that chrome for a while, solid work, but Militech is very interested in a sponsorship deal, their new Eagle Cyberarms. I have the data here. He started sending me a file and I really did consider uploading something in reverse, but instead just blocked the transfer, checked the file, and other than some corpo tracking shit, which I tore apart, I took the file and checked it out. The image in my eye was of a new cyberarm. They were of the more expensive Militech Eagle cyberarms. The Condors, much more expensive and fancy brother. If the Condor were excellent in their durability for standard troops, the Eagle was the fancy Special Forces version. I looked them over. They were good, honestly. Not quite as armored as my Condors, but better flexibility, and the sensitivity settings were way better. The sense of touch and dexterity was crazy high if the numbers were accurate. Not even touching on the modifications pace. These were next-gen, easily modifiable for what was needed, more than enough space for the common cyber arm weapon augments. Even used a core of the orbital crystal to make the frame twice as durable at half the weight. At least according to the blurb. It was, honestly, kinda tempting. They certainly looked good, and I liked the PSI grip strength. I could do some awesome movements with that much grip strength. I looked up, pushing the files away to see the man. Alex, standing there with that smug little look on his face. He was definitely that type. A devil offering goodies, but why? Whatever. It didn't matter, I'd let Hiromi deal with this, and if it got annoying, well, a head in a box tended to send messages. That was probably not too over the top. Killing overly annoying assistants was probably like, normal? No, probably not, whatever. I'll think about it. Don't think too long. The showroom is holding an opening next week on Thursday. We'll need confirmation at least 2 days before that so they can get everything they need. Tuesday, got it. I waved him off as I turned and walked away. My Kusanagi was waiting for me in the secure car park, and frankly a nice drive to get away from all this sounded nice. Do you want me to call up a car for you? We have a few Rayfields in the car park, if you want to get behind the wheel of something nice. My buddy has a Caliban, I've driven it plenty. Well, technically I had only done a few around the streets. Malcolm was a baby about his baby, but still. I preferred my Quadra anyways. I made it to the Kusanagi and started her up, relaxing a little as her rumble filled the air. Ah, more of a motorcycle gal, huh? Well, you know Yaiba could always be reached out to. There is a rumor they are producing something new. That's great. Bye. I throttled up and took off, leaving the man in my dust, and the entire situation with it. As I managed to get on the main streets after flashing my credentials at the security stop, I took a moment to really give her some throttle, feeling the wind in my hair and finally being free. Only, my stupid hair felt weird with all the shit in it. So even as the wind flowed around me, it felt almost like I'd already been changed. Stupid comfy jacket. It was probably made with evil too. So after that I called Hiromi. She told me it's a fairly common scam. Well, she called it a corporate playbook. They try to show an assistant that can do things my old manager can't. Set up deals, brand stuff, expensive food and all that. I complained as I stared up at the ceiling. The faint noises of whatever crappy show June was watching filled the living room, but I'd pointedly turned the volume down when I flopped on the couch so June would stop watching such terrible shows and stuff. That's definitely why. I like expensive food. Shut up, June, I'm telling you about the evil corpo plots. It's not something you are supposed to want. Then I looked at him firmly. Besides, you only want XXL burritos. Well, yeah. The XXL is the expensive brand version. I don't eat XL burritos, Motoko. He responded as if I was stupid. I don't. June, they would try to make you eat like XXXL burritos or something. Do they make those? Is there a triple XL burrito? Why didn't I know about this? God damn it, June, stop joking around. I grumbled at him, and for a moment I wasn't sure if he was actually joking at all, as he had a look on his face like he was considering it before shifting into a smirk at me. Idiot. Heh. XXXL burritos. That's funny. I'm serious. I know. Go on, tell me about your crazy day. That's most of it. He's going to be sickeningly helpful until I either kill him, or I switch from Hiromi to him as my manager. That's the sort of plan. But Hiromi knows about it, and you're good. I know about it, sure, but they might cause issues for Hiromi, if they think it'll make me switch. Won't they not do that, now that you know? I don't think they care very much. But if they mess with Hiromi dash. Head and box? Head and box. I agreed. June had taken my idea in stride and even agreed it was a good idea. I don't think that actually meant it was a good idea, but I was willing to accept my brother's stupid advice if it was something I wanted to do. I'd literally gotten texts from Alex after I took off. The guy was lucky I didn't upload a virus that made his agent scream at him constantly or something. Maybe later. I think. What? I said instantly, a little defensive, as June had sounded like he was about to start criticizing me. I take criticism super well, June, but you better not be able to tell me I'm wrong. I think he understood my innocent and peaceful look that I shot him through narrowed eyes as he thought about it, then seemed to just shrug. I think you take things personally a bit too much. You should just enjoy the benefits of what you have going, you earned it. I enjoy things just fine, and I don't take things personally. You moron. He said flatly. Listen, Motoko. You're stressed out, like more than you should be. You like music, so make music. You like food, so eat good food. You like chrome, so get some new chrome. Who cares where it comes from? If some chrome falls off the back of a truck, or you find it in the trash, you don't complain about it, you go and chip it dash. June, please tell me you didn't chip in literal garbage chrome? What? No, of course not, I had my TC contacts. You though? He uttered, teasingly, and I sent him a look. I've never chipped in garbage, June. Sure. He said slyly, and I felt my eyes narrow even more. I never chipped in garbage, June. Vic is the best, and he doesn't get his stuff out of the trash. I never said anything about Vic, but I do remember a few years back my little sister coming into the house carrying a thrown-out Cybermatrix hollow tattoo. I did not. In a bucket. No. I gasped, horrified. Oh yeah. You found it thrown out behind Ryder's clinic. Oh God, I'm going to be sick. Yep. Got it chipped in, I mean sure you cleaned it for days, and eventually Ryder chipped it for you. Cost me a pretty penny for the work, but you wanted it. I don't want to live anymore. I whispered as June took far too much pleasure in telling me what kind of goblin Motoko Kusanagi had been. I don't want to ask, but I think I have to. If Ryder threw it out, then why did he chip it? If it didn't work, then why throw it away? Oh, it worked, but it was disgusting. Apparently some gonk had gotten himself killed and just rotted away. Someone clept it from the corpse and tried to sell it to Ryder. Oh no. No, no, no. I grabbed the couch pillows and threw them up to my ears. I didn't want to hear this. Yep. So that's how you got your light tat. Well, you don't have it anymore. I'm filthy. Unclean. I whispered, horrified, and June just laughed. I was definitely not hiding in my room doing some programming, trying my best to forget any previous conversation, when I got a surprise call. Asterisk Wakako. Didn't expect to hear from you. Asterisk. Asterisk, I have a job that needs done. Now. I'll pay extra if you will take it. Asterisk. Okay, I'm suddenly very interested. Asterisk, don't be. I need a gun recovered from a safe. It's a murder weapon and must be removed before the cops arrive and search the residence. Asterisk. I was already up, an excuse to get out and do something? I was there. Send me the address, any other details I need to know? Asterisk, the client is a Tiger Claw, he got arrested for killing his wife. He did it. I've been asked to make sure the evidence disappears. So now you get paid extra to do it in a rush. Asterisk. Fair enough, whispered, that was kinda dark for a gig. I loaded up, and was out the door. A part of me was asking if I wanted to do this. Sounds like the guy deserved some justice. The other part reminded me I was a merc that killed people, sometimes people that didn't deserve it, for money. A message popped up from Wakako with the address and info. Motoko? Got a gig from Wakako. Should be an in and out, no fighting, I'll be back in an hour. I called out as I rushed out. June making an accepting noise from the couch. Okay, time to get to work. The place wasn't far. Taking the quadra, I headed out onto the streets and towards the Sakura market. It wasn't right next door to the old apartment, but it was fairly close. I ended up needing to drive right past the apartment complex at first. There were NCPD cars out front. Suboptimal. Very not good. Shit was fucked. Parking a bit away, I headed over and in through the complex's back door, which didn't resist me for more than a moment. The guy wasn't a top-level executive, he only had a fourth-floor apartment, and if the cops were already here, shit was not good. In fact, it was insane that the NCPD would be here this quick. Maybe it was just for another incident. Maybe someone got into a fight, or a shooting or something, or I had gotten into the elevator and was on the fourth floor. And the cops were there. Or maybe the cops were here for the client. I reached over and hit the 5 on the elevator, playing up looking annoyed before relaxing as the doors closed. Okay. Time to do this. The door opened, and I moved. The hallway was empty, but I just needed window access. I knocked on the first door and when I heard movement ducked back around the hallway. Not my entrance point. Once the poor homeowner cursed me out and closed the door, I went to the next apartment. Then the third. That no one responded, so I just opened the door. The door that was open, that totally wasn't locked, that I totally didn't break into. Moving straight through it, I hit the outer patio the apartment had and just looked down. Let's see, it was 5 down the hallway. I flipped over the edge, landing silently on the next rows of patios and snuck across until I was able to peek into the apartment. Cops were inside. Fuck. Luckily they were in the living room checking the place, and the safe was hidden in the bedroom. Now I just needed a way inside. The only patio entrance went into the living room, so that was a no-go. There was a window, but I sighed. Leaping up and then across the upper patio, and then back down so I couldn't be seen through the large apartment doors. The bedroom window was fairly small, and it had armored shutters, which made noise to open, so I was going to have to distract the cops. I peeked over and after a moment found the TV. Hacking into the programming, it only took a few seconds for me to find the volume control that the remote control would access. Dialing it all the way up, I switched the channel to something more loud, and just settled in to wait for a minute. Come on, just go close to the remote. I grumbled internally, watching the cops wander around flipping the couch cushions or looking around. Then it happened. One of them reached up and was searching through the TV's internals. Right through the holodes that were playing. UCK me harder. The scream from what I assumed was Watson Horror echoed loudly enough even I flinched, but it gave me a chance. As they were all deafened, I activated the shutters, and started getting the bedroom window fully open so I could slip through. I hope it was Watson Horror, because that show was awful, and if I had to deal with copycats, trying the same raunchy terrible ideas that June would inevitably watch cause his taste was shit, I'd probably break the TV. Thinking all that, I leveraged myself through the window, flipped in, and landed quietly, before hurrying and hiding behind the desk that was in the corner. As the noise of the TV cut off. Quiet. Good. I reached over for the safe, hidden under the desk, pulling up the carpet that thankfully was already cut, hiding the entire thing. Quickly tapping in the code, I waited a second. Then the fucking safe beeped. Loudly. As it opened. My sanity activated. As I pulled it open, found the Unity inside. Grabbed it and took off. My boots were just passing through the window in a full dive as I heard the door open. No time to stop, they would check the window. I reached out, grabbed the patio bars, and used them to angle and control my descent. Doing it one-handed was a pain in the ass, but I managed, jumping down a floor at a time, and then rolling away when I hit the ground floor. I walked casually once I was up, and I just managed to appear normal when I heard a shout from above from the officers. Gig complete, mostly. Fucking hell, Wakako. You better pay extra for this shit. Chapter 238. Don't hum at me. I grumbled at Wakako. I got the gun out of the place while the police were actively raiding it. You were supposed to not be seen. I wasn't. They know someone broke in. Yeah, and the guy's hidden safe beeped when it was open. Tell your client if he wants to install a safe, make sure it's a quiet model. I sent Wakako a glare and she puffed on her cigarette before nodding. It was the best that could be done. I wasn't expecting the police response so quickly. Yeah, no kidding. They were inside the apartment. I thought you said I'd have some time. I did. There was information that was not given to me, that changed the protocol. Yeah? The woman that was killed had police connections. Likely an undercover agent. Hence the fast response. Shit. So your guy married a cop? Probably. Wakako replied, exhaling some smoke which I leaned away from. EW. Baby. Hey. I plan on replacing my lungs eventually, but that doesn't mean I want that shit near me. It smells. Humph. Humph. I responded right back as I got up and made a face at Wakako as I walked out. She sent me a flat look as I backed out through her beaded door. Geez. What a mess, but at the same time, I felt myself grinning a bit. It had been really fun. Infiltration really was my favorite type of gig. As I walked through Jig Jig Street back out to the main road, slipping into the quadra that I had left parked, I pulled out into night city traffic. I had another stupid band meeting tonight. Considering MSM wanted to start publishing standalone complex as soon as possible, every night was taken up by time in the recording studio, or some sort of band thing. Modeling pictures, and whatever. There was even a conversation that had drifted past me that if our first single did well on the MSM production, then we'd have a talk show segment. Me. On TV. I was fairly confident I'd end up shooting someone at this rate. Probably on live TV. Considering I would need to blow off some steam, I turned back into Japantown towards the gun range I liked. I sent a message out to my chums if they wanted to join me for shooting, but only got negatives in response, which wasn't a surprise. Parking, I took out the tactician shotgun from the trunk and walked inside. I got some side eyes from the owner behind his bulletproof glass, but when I flashed him the eddies he waved me through and even sent some shells over for me. It's like the guy knew me or something. Laughing as I sat up and looked over the range. I needed this. Just some good old-fashioned grinding of a stat. No chums to get distracted by, just me, and repeating an action 1,000 times to try and make myself just that little bit better. Time to grind annihilation. It was only level 5 after all. Flicking a set of shells into my fingers, I quickly loaded the shotgun, working on the habit, as frankly quick loading a shotgun was a bit different from other weapons, and I should practice it to make sure I wasn't fumbling anything. Then I brought the shotgun to my shoulder and activated the range. I breathed in and pulled the trigger. I rocked with the bang, pumped the shotgun, recentered, fired again. Then again. 8 rounds were shot, and 8 targets blinked as they registered shots. I pulled the shotgun away, swiped more shells in my other hand's fingers, and slid round after round into the chamber. A quick pump and I started firing again. Again and again. I let myself fall into the rhythm. Just burning time and stress by following the motions. Each trigger pull sending buckshot into holographic targets. Each little number giving me just a little endorphin rush. Or at least something like that. It was fun to just hit the targets and see the numbers go up, but not nearly as much when I got a little alert noise. 100 Annihilation XP, just one more step towards level 6. I smiled and continued firing, still had half a box left after all. Fire, pump, reload. Fire, pump, reload. Barrel flash after barrel flash. Flash. Thank you for the picture, the photographer said, bowing politely as she moved on. I actually smiled for that one. She had been much nicer than some of the others that just ran around snapping pictures without a word. It was lucky my karoshi didn't get glare, because I'd be blind at this point if not for them. Come on, Motoko, smile wider and wave. This is our party, Klein called out, waving at the men and women that walked by. MSM had decided to throw a party for us, although I had a feeling the party would have happened regardless. We were just an excuse. Up at the top of one of the skyscrapers in Night City, where many of the rich and famous gathered to party. I'm pretty sure that was the woman that played the titular Watson whore. Seriously, that show kept coming up with the new season out. It's like it was everywhere. It probably was. I know June said it was popular. I ignored Klein's words and just fell back into the table. Today was a launch party. MSM had decided which of the singles we'd drop first, and Pretender had been it. We were technically here just to party, but it was always more than that. We'd be up on stage before the night ended to play the song, and show off, to draw some hype among the rich. Investment strategy is what Alex had described it as. I just called it lame, but whatever. You should just get something to drink and loosen up. Alice offered, and I scoffed. I don't drink. You can get some food then. She offered, annoyed at me, and I blinked. Food actually did sound kinda good. Was there a menu? No. There was not a menu. But waiters were everywhere, and I waved at one of them that hurried over. What food do you guys serve? I'll send you the menu, but the house special tonight is a beef Wellington. Real cloned beef. I blinked because that actually sounded fucking amazing. I'd never really had fancy beef Wellington before, but just real meat sounded good. I got the blip of the menu offering, and after checking it out, and removing some adware from the program, I pulled it open. Oh. It all looked good. Then I remembered that the tab was on MSM tonight. I'll take that, and this sushi platter, and let me get the real baked potato as well. Of course. The waiter agreed and disappeared. Real food. Hey, there was a benefit to all this after all. With that distraction over, I focused once more on what was going on around the club. People sitting in different booths, most of them seemingly enjoying more than just drinks. It was a den of debauchery, and while we were a bit of a showpiece today, it was a nearly lusterless one. Barely anyone outside of the media people going around with cameras even seemed to care. We were just a minor spectacle among the debauchery. Not that Klein, Alice, and Jared seemed to understand that. The three of them were partying like this was the big time. We hadn't even technically had our big time debut. I was about to fall into another pit of bitter irritation at this still being rather unfun, all things told, when something was placed in front of me, and the scent hit me. Oh. I whispered, looking over the steaming pile of pasty, real pasty, and beef that was already cut and steaming. A real potato was put next to it. Real food. My hand instantly grabbed the knife and fork, twirling the knife around for a moment before bringing it down and cutting a piece free, and that went right into my face. Heaven. So good. Yummy, yummy meat. None of the preservative taste of scop. This was real food that could actually go bad. As I was chewing, Alex walked over and slid into the booth. His slicked back hair and manufactured smile put me off guard. It's almost time. The release of the single on the radio stations is in 5 minutes. We're going to have you play a surprise run at the same time. This is it. While it might not seem like it if you can impress the people in this room, you are guaranteed stardom. I chewed my beef. I didn't want to walk away from the beef. Oh. The sushi platter. It was dropped off in front of Alex, and he reached out to take one when suddenly my knife was embedded into the table in front of him. I chewed slowly, staring at him with absolute murder. My sushi. He seemed to actually have 2 brain cells, and he slowly withdrew his hand. My apologies, I thought that was for the table. Mine. I mumbled around the beef I was chewing and then went back to eating. Well, all of you are needed backstage to get this show on the road. I frowned as I stared at hot real food. Fine. Whatever. I'd come back. I reached over and clapped the other plates on the table and put them over the food to try and keep them hot. Yeah, let's go. I said, then dunked 4 sushi rolls into my mouth. Showtime. Keep you in the dark, you know they all pretend. I crooned, the lights in the club shifting to focus on us, just as an announcer finished introducing us. There was mostly disinterest among the rich. That was fine. I, unlike everyone else, didn't care if they liked it. No, I only had one interest, an interest that made the heat in my voice all the harsher as I put my all into the song. You were the reason I wasn't eating good food. You're the pretender. What if I say I will never surrender? I roared, before flipping to the guitar and making the guitar they had set up for the gig sing, chrome fingers making every string scream and sigh as the song progressed. Yeah, who are you? Yeah, who are you? I yelled, letting my voice vibrate just right to get the tone to carry through the entire hall, with the vocal fry. I whipped off the guitar, and walked away as if I didn't care about them. Because I didn't. But why was there actual clapping? They did realize the song was literally about people like them, right? I let it go, even as the rest of the band roared and paraded around. Alice called out that they were stand-alone complex. She cheered and played up the crowd. I made a bit of a commotion by just jumping the stage and flopping back into the booth to finish my meal. Sigh. It wasn't quite as good as it had cooled a little. I still ate that shit though. Hey, like that was a Nova song. I was chowing down on a second course. Real vegetables. My body craved it. When the voice called out over the table, "Holy shit!" Klein whispered, looking up at the beautiful blonde woman that was at our table. She looked a little tipsy, but I narrowed my eyes. An act? Ninjutsu gave me knowledge of poisons and stuff, and she only seemed inebriated. Like I was totally into it. What if I say I'll never surrender? Yeah. She did a terrible rendition, but it was. I narrowed my eyes. She knew how to sing, that was purposefully bad. You're Maggie Electric. Well, I play Maggie on Watson Whore, but I'm Kitty Thunder in real life. She broke into a giggle, and I just had to wince at the terrible naming sense. Yikes. Holy shit, I love that show. Klein said, sounding starstruck, and she sent him a flashing smirk and a wink. The tough rocker boy nearly swooned. Can I get an autograph? Jared asked, and Kitty giggled as she nodded, but he literally just pulled open his jacket to show his chest. Without skipping a beat, Kitty pulled out a marker from in between her chest, her top, which I was pretty sure only stayed on because of an incredibly strong boob job, barely wobbled as she pulled the pen out. She yanked the cap and signed Jared's chest, even planting a kiss of all things on his peck at the end. And Jared looked like he melted at that. Before anything more crazy could happen, as Klein looked like he was about to lose his pants of all things, a voice called out. Ah, stand-alone complex. I see you've met the illustrious and beautiful Kitty. Alex called out as he walked over, and Kitty made a laugh and waved at him as if he was kidding. Kitty's newest season is nearly finished. I hear she's always looking for new music though. Alex offered, slyly, and I just hummed, as I figured out what was going on. My music on a show called Watson Whore. Kill me. I tore into my food, ignoring it all. Why, you really put it away, don't you? Don't you worry about getting super fat? I would worry about that. She suddenly rattled off, and I looked up and finished my bite of real spinach with actual cheese over it. MSM was going to be paying a pretty penny for it. Nah, I patted my stomach, which was all rock hard muscle. Heh. Even if you get all sculpted out, you can still ruin yourself with fat, you know? It looks terrible, the fat all goes to certain spots and you get all bleg. She laughed loudly, almost like a donkey, and I just shrugged. Not a problem, this is real. No shit. She said, and I noticed her eyes were checking me over, before seeming to realize I was being honest. High-end optics, those. Real meat, huh? You ever think about an acting career? She asked, her smile more real than it had been before. I'm 14. Like that doesn't matter dash, she started but was cut off. Kitty isn't wrong. You definitely have that star power we look for. MSM does more than just music, you know? We have dash this time, I interrupted. Not interested. Plus that's something for Hiromi to talk with, since you know. She's my manager. I said, looking at Alex pointedly. His smile went a little brittle and Kitty just drunk laughed again. Oh, she got you on that one. Not manager. Of course, but Kitty is the star of a hit show. With a word she could get you on as a guest perhaps? Alex offered, and I could hear the greed in his voice. I don't watch it. Huh? Her show. I've never seen it. I don't like most TV. Oh, my hearts. Kitty cried out, faking an injury, and Alex winced. But you've heard of it, of course, I'm sure you're just busy dash. I don't have any interest in it. No, even if I could watch it I wouldn't. Sorry. I offered to the woman, but it wasn't very earnest. She seemed more amused, but Alex was panicking a bit. Haha. Well, maybe we'll do a fun group project where we watch it, anyways. Kitty dash, he was trying to lead her away, so I sighed and bit the bullet. Hold on. Hey, My brother likes you show, June is into it. You mind if I get an autograph or a picture or something? He'd think that's preem. Ah. Sure kiddo. Come in and let big sis Kitty leave something for your brother. She cheered, dodging Alex's arm to lead her away. She was clingy, but did give a real autograph and a picture of the two of us in a nearby mirror that I snapped. Be careful around him. She whispered into my ear, as we were snapping the photo, her entire body melting into mine to make the picture look a little risque, but I guess that was just kinda her theme. It was just a whisper, quiet and sharp. Oh, I know. I whispered back, as I snapped the picture. You don't. She whispered, again patting me on the shoulder, and then she was back to drunk actress and the life of the party. That woman was a very good actress. I still wasn't going to watch the show she was in. It was fucking weird. The numbers are looking very good. Alex informed all of us as we were driving back from the party. MSM wanted all of us traveling together to and from. Apparently it built band unity, according to Alex when he described it. Hiromi had told me the truth though. It meant MSM didn't have to worry about a no-show during one of their events. The fact Hiromi wasn't here beside me was unfortunate. She hadn't gotten an invite, so to speak. She had told me it was an expected snub. As only MSM agents had been invited, people like Alex. Or my new team of stylists and makeup artists. Perfect. The woman that was looking over my face apparently said as she finished fixing my lipstick. I just sighed, the party was over. Why were they still all over us? That's good, right? The numbers being good? So far. Alex said to Alice, the only one that had responded to his statement. Right now the song is going over the airwaves. We track listening and interest levels through standard ads and song requests. The media sites are talking, and we are tracking that. We test the waters a little to see what the fan response is, but that'll take a bit longer. Test the waters? We put out some posts on and comments on a few CityNet sites. If consumers respond, then we know there is interest. Literal bot posting? Great. And if they aren't good? I asked pointedly. Then the support that standalone complex has been receiving gets dropped to a lower level until you bring up the interest again. He said sternly, a dire warning. But we believe in SAC. You have the entire media arm of MSM working to build you into the next big band. So just do your best, and ride the wave to stardom. He offered with a wink, and I just rolled my eyes. I'd talk to Hiromi about it. Maybe she'd have some idea on how to build our rep some more. I wasn't sure I honestly trusted MSM to handle it correctly, especially since they were constantly trying to mess with the music. But we moved through Night City, the lights flashing into the limousine they had stuffed us into as I looked out. It felt weird to be on this side of it all. Dining with the rich and famous. I was so used to being out there on the streets. It made me antsy. Either way, I shook it off. I had done this, and I would use the benefits, but I wouldn't forget who I was. And as I side-eyed Alex in the reflection of the window. And it might be a good idea to start planning an assassination. I'd had my dislike of the man, but a real warning from someone like that? I'd have to take that seriously. Chapter 239. So Alex has set up a gig, or rather he set everything up, including putting money down before mentioning it to me. Do I kill him now? I asked, as I slurped up some noodles. Hiromi hid a little smile, and didn't say anything for a few moments. No. Frankly, I'm using what he is doing to learn from it. The gig is solid, and he threw it at me to okay it, although it was very much a trap. If I refuse, then MSM loses eddies, and companies like that? They aren't in the business of losing eddies? I added at her pause, and she nodded. She leaned down, her hair hiding her face for a second as she slurped up her own noodles. The two of us having our fairly annual lunch dates on her school lunch break. So we do it? We do it. If you're up to it? Yeah, sure, I guess. I grumbled. Hiromi nudged me. Hey, if you don't want to? Nah, it's fine. They just refuse to stop trying to mess with my Chrome. Speaking of, you talked to Vic about the upgrades, right? The Eagle? He basically called me an idiot if I refused. I admitted, a bit embarrassed, and Hiromi laughed at me. Did he now? What a surprise. Teasing me is forbidden. Me? Tease my best chum? She said airily, and I nudged her, earning a giggle before returning to my noodles. I grabbed the nearly empty bowl and tipped it back, draining it dry. I'm going to accept the showroom thing. And I guess I'll hear more about their Eagle deal. I'll let MSM know, and send the requirements. Requirements? Of course. MSM might have their own expectation of brand deals, but that's not how we work. She called out, slurping up her own noodles again. Which meant I had to just stare at her in confusion, no idea what she was talking about. We'll put our own requirements for the deal through. Things like only Vic works on the Chrome for installation. Oh. Yeah, that's obvious. It is to us, but a lot of those brand deals? They're going to want their own rippers to install their Chrome. Not happening. Hence why we are firm. It might cost you though. How? They might push for more brand stuff. Photo shoots, maybe something crazy like a commercial. Maybe they'll put you on chip-in? Ugh. I'll haggle for an easier time. She said, hand reaching up to grab my arm and squeezing. Thanks, Hiromi. I can't believe that jerk didn't send you the invite last night. It's fine. She said in a tone that told me it very much wasn't fine. We'll just use it as an obvious example of him causing trouble for standalone complex. The others might not agree. I said quietly, and Hiromi nodded. I know. I'm already expecting him to seduce the others. Well, he won't get me. Then I smiled. I wonder when he'll try something stupid. If Kitty's warning is real. Then kill him. Hiromi said with complete finality. That's what he's there for. We'll let him work hard, and the moment he steps over the line, just like we planned, you'll murder him, as a warning to MSM. To murder, for solving all of life's little problems. I offered, lifting my drink, and Hiromi raised hers as we clinked it together. Motoko. I was worried you were going to be late. Alice called out as I entered the recording studio. Sorry, there was a bit of traffic. I said I was on my way. I know, but still. Ah, never mind. I'm just used to more unreliable frontmen, I guess. You aren't him though. She said with a sigh, as I was tugged through the studio into the recording booth. What are we working on tonight? Well, we were kinda thinking of that love song of yours. Everlong? Yeah, we can do that. Which version, acoustic, or? Definitely the rock version. Alice said, and I just shrugged, sounded fine to me. Ah, there she is. Thought you were going to play hooky tonight. Klein, sorry, traffic. It's fine with me. Just means more time at the bar. He called out as he walked past me up to the drum set. Try not to drink too much. I reminded, but Jared laughed as he entered, and grabbed his guitar. Not all of us have ice in our veins, Klein, and I need a little drink to cool off. I just sent him a flat look. Whatever, bro. And everyone is here. I rolled my eyes. No, not everyone was here. Hiromi couldn't make it tonight. But Alex liked that. Alright, you lot have your song choice for the evening? We got the sound studio working, hopefully Motoko, as absolutely amazing as you are, can you let him do a bit more work tonight? Only if he doesn't fuck it up. I said, and since everyone was already ready, I instantly started strumming. The mic went dead as Alex wasn't about to speak over a recording, and I warmed up as the others prepared. We got through most of the song before Jared fumbled a note, and we called for a stop. I grabbed a bottle of water and drank down the brand name real water with a fancy bottle that was just the same slop everyone drank. What a life. Motoko, got a sec? I looked up as Alex called, and I felt my eyes narrow. I put the guitar down, and headed into the booth, and found Alex looking proud of himself as always as the recording tech worked to mess with the song. I could already tell I was going to have to yell at him to stop fucking with the song. Sup? We got a response back from Militech about the endorsement deal. They dash. Okay, but why isn't Hiromi talking to me about this? She's the manager. I cut him off, delighting in once again popping the guy's ego as he had a bit of sharpness around his eyes at my words. Of course, last discussion will be with Ms. Mitsunashi, but this is just an update. Militech is very pleased with your acceptance. They aren't quite so pleased with you requesting your own Ripper. Militech has offered to have specialists flown in, absolute top-of-the-line doctors. Doesn't matter to me. Vic is the only guy that gets to put his hands inside me. So if they want to see things, then talk to him, maybe he'll accept having it done in some fancy hospital, otherwise no. I understand some attachment, but dash. Alex. You seem like a smart guy. So understand. Vic is the only man that messes with my chrome. Period. I'll do my best to handle the discussions with Militech. He offered, sounding like he was pulling teeth. You mean Hiromi will handle the discussions? She should be the main point of contact, as she's my manager and already understands my limits. Of course. Ms. Mitsunashi is CC'd on all the communications. She'd better be. I said with finality and turned away. God, this guy was such a creep. I stomped out of the MSM recording studio amped up, but not in a good way. Arguing with Alex, arguing with the studio tech that kept trying to electronic up Everlong. Arguing with the band that wanted that. It was an infuriating experience. Just remember the Eddies, Motoko. They're paying you so much money to deal with them. And murder is on the table. I reminded myself, breathing out, my breath steaming a little in the cold December air. It was cold tonight. Even for California. Enough that I should probably put on some more clothes. Instead, I walked through the parking garage, my Kusanagi waiting for me, and without hesitation I started her up, and then hit the gas, peeling out of the garage, uncaring about the tire marks left behind. There were already a ton anyways. Not like I was the first rocker boy to peel out in happiness or anger. At the exit I had two choices. Left, to head back home, or right. I jerked the bars, nearly popped a wheelie with how much gas I gave it, and turned right. I didn't know where I was going, but I was going there fast. I hit the gas, for once being a bad driver and just moving. I was in the middle of downtown, and honestly I wanted to be anywhere but. I swerved in and out of traffic, and definitely broke more than just a few speed laws. But I didn't care. Fuck it. If I got a ticket, then it would be up to MSM to bail me out. That was actually part of the contract. A stupid little detail. But eventually the frustration boiled off, and I slowed down and I stopped at a red light. Idling under the light, keeping an eye on everything around me, and just trying to figure out what I was even doing. Then I heard it. Shouts and cries, but not of fear or anything. Shifting a bit, I looked up. On one of the buildings across the road at the top I could see the lights, and sounds, and the unmistakable sound of someone fighting. I turned, popping up onto the curb from the light, and slowly drifted down the sidewalk until I think I found the right building. Mostly because of the goons that were standing outside it, and waving people in. Yo. Fight up top? 50 eddies for a ticket. The man grunted. Valentino, not animal or something, so this was probably safer. I parked and nodded, flashing the guy 50 eddies, even though I was fairly certain he was lying about the cost, and walking up. Yo chica, don't recognize you. Sup chum. I greeted back. The Tino was in the elevator with a girl and they were heading up, but he had actually held the door. First time here. Saw the commotion, decided to take a look. Who, a cherry popper tonight EY? Alright, come on, I'll show you around. I'm Juanito. Motoko. I offered and the girl nodded at me. Maria. So you like fights? Enjoy a little action EY? I'm frustrated, annoyed, and I could use something fun to do. That's all. I explained, and he chuckled at that. Well chica, this'll be something fun alright. He laughed as the elevator door opened, and a wash of noise hit me. Screaming people calling out to kill him, and waving arms. Music was playing a radio somewhere as well, but it was drowned out by the sound of the screaming calls. Ah, so that's what was going on. An old rooftop pool, empty now, but everyone was gathered around. Tinos and others, everyone here obviously looking for a good time. I walked into the crowd, seemingly losing Juanito instantly as I slipped among the crowd, relaxing because here I wasn't being doted on every second, or smugly warmed up to. People jostled and knocked me around until I got to the front. There I watched a fight go on. A Tino, and a 6th Street banger. Metal skull and little red horns all up his skull, quite the bit of chrome were circling each other. Across the pool was a 6th Street contingent as well. On the opposite side of the Tinos I noticed. Around the pool plenty of people were sitting halfway into the arena, and I winced as the Tino was knocked back smashing into the leg of one of the guys hanging out, a nasty crack echoing out, as the Tino got back up to fight ignoring the scream of pain from the guy whose leg he just broke. There was a moment I couldn't help but think back to my own previous experience in something like this. The toxic stink of maelstrom breath, and the feeling of being pushed into an arena to fight to the death. It would have scared me back then, to be reminded of it. Now I just smirked. Yeah, fuck him up. I cried out, getting into the atmosphere. Fuck it, when in Rome. The fight ended fairly quickly. The Tino guy had a bit of a glass jaw, and the 6th Street banger had chrome fists. Literally. I was laughing along with most of the crowd when the poor Tino guy was hauled out having pissed himself. Someone clean this shit up. I can't fight in this. The chrome head called out, earning more laughs at the trail of yellow in the arena. Apparently this was something accounted for as bunch of water was dumped over the edge, and then a shop vac was used to dry it back up. Place your bets, folks, place your bets. Can anyone defeat the American Devil? A loud voice called out, and most of the crowd booed. So this guy was the heel, huh? I just laughed along, even shifting to sit over the edge. Splash zones were just fine if you weren't squeamish about blood after all. This was kind of fun. I even started running my braindance cause this was turning into a pretty fun memory. Another fight started, another Tino, and this poor guy really gave it his all, but the American Devil was actually more than just a thug. He was a tactical fighter, slipping and juking. He had boxing training, and the poor Tino was just a kid trying to earn some rep. He went down, and the crowd roared, even I roared along with them. I should come to fights more often. The 6th Street ganger walked to the edge of the pool taking a short break. He got past a red cup of beer. He turned and roared to the crowd as everyone raised their own drinks to him. The reigning champion, so to speak. Then he poured half of it over his face as he tipped it back, roared again, and then chucked the cup. He'd probably meant to aim straight up over the crowd, but instead either he had missed the throw or just wasn't very good at it, or maybe his hand was cramped up from punching gonks in the face. I should not come to fights more often. I spit beer for a moment, shocked at what just happened. He'd almost literally smashed the rest of the cup into my face, then he laughed. Hey, fuck you, asshole. I roared out, pointed, and he just laughed louder, throwing a motion that could only mean for me to suck his dick. Oh, it was fucking on now. Fuck that. You and me. I'm fucking kicking your ass. I roared out and slipped from the edge right into the pool. Now normally a teenager getting into a pit fight would be met with some hesitation, but this was fucking Night City. The crowd roared, and no one at all cared that I was a girl. I grinned feral as I clenched my fists. This was exactly what I needed. I should come to fights more often. Oh, a new challenger. Introducing beer to the face girl. The speaker at the side of the pool called out, and then he along with the entire crowd started laughing. Okay, he was next. Instead I shook it off. Fists raised up. The American Devil didn't hesitate, moving in with swift movement, entirely intending on killing me. My grin was definitely feral as I juked in, surprising the guy with a quick switch of my sandy, letting me slide right into his guard, fist raised up, and smashing into his face. He rocked backwards, jolting as his arms came up to guard, and he actually danced a bit, avoiding my follow-up punches. I cancelled the sandy and jerked back as he swung, his fists cracked as he swiped at me. He was a better fighter than me. Perfect. You bitch. He said, flatly, almost tonelessly, as the space let him lean up and feel at his nose. He was bleeding a bit. Come on, time to get your ass kicked. I told him, and then he snarled. He activated his own sandy and burst in, jolting side to side, and I just laughed, as I tried to match him. His fist plowed into my guard, rocking me back, as I juked his follow-up body shot, and then he reared back and kicked me. The donkey kick would have absolutely destroyed me, if I hadn't seen it coming, and reached up, both hands catching the kick, and instead of completely flattening me, he only sent me flying into a roll, which I then came back up with a laugh. He was a good boxer, but not much else. His fighting outside of that wasn't nearly as good. Could I beat him? I honestly didn't know. He was tough, his skull was definitely an armored brain case of some sort, maybe even shock absorption to keep his brain from getting rocked around. His fists were pure chrome and hard, ready to tear and puncture. His arms raised up, and mine did the same, the two of us calculating as we moved in. The real secret to fighting was to hit the other guy without getting hit yourself. Unfortunately, he was kinda better than me, so I only had one choice. Beat his ass until he stopped. Our fists smashed out, and now that his Sandy was cycling, he wasn't any faster than I was. Our fists rocked out, smashing into each other's arms, trying to find a weakness, trying to smash through into each other's face. I felt blood on my face. Tasted it. And yet, this guy was definitely not reacting well to me just hammering into his face just as hard as he was into mine. Every one of his blows was monstrous, but he wasn't ready for me just not caring, and hitting him back just as hard. We broke apart for a moment, and I could feel his hesitation, which was exactly what I wanted when the radio changed. Eyes boring away through me. I laughed, despite the pain, because that was me. "Hey, it's my song," I called out chipperly, and rushed him. He flinched, rolling backwards and nearly tripping to make some space. I activated my Sandy. He was off balance. I couldn't hit him from the front, he still had enough guard for that, but his sides were completely open. I ran, right up the side of the pool, he was backed into one of the corners, which made it perfect. My boots gripped, until I reached all the way to the top, my boot planting right in between the crotch of some poor gonk as I launched myself. Hopefully I'd only squished his nuts a little, but it sent me flying at American Devil sideways from above. He only just got his fists back up properly, expecting me in front of him, when my aerial punch slammed into his jaw with all my weight, my ankles full force, and every ounce of extra power I could get out of my body in the air. He flopped over, as I hit the ground and rolled, coming up onto my feet to keep fighting, but he wasn't getting up. "Huh. Guess that was just a little too much for you," I said, and then, because the guy had done it to me earlier, I walked over and kicked him in the nuts. "Suck on that, bitch." "Fuck." The roar went over the crowd as I looked up. The 6th Street gangers were up on their feet and pissed, the Tinos were up on their feet laughing at their opponents, and the crowd was going wild. Then I saw the guns. Shit. Quick hack, even if one of my eyes was having a bit of trouble seeing through the blood dripping into it. Stupid forehead cut. Mass weapon glitch. I activated it, sending it rolling through the 6th Street bangers, as they were losing their cool. The Tinos were looking like they were reaching too, but it was another cry that caught my attention. "Stand-alone complex." "Who?" a voice screamed out, and I jerked my head. "Huh. I guess he was a fan?" I waved a bit awkwardly, and the guy lit up like a Christmas tree. "There is a fire in me. A fire that burns." My own voice screamed out, and you know what? There was a fire in me. I felt my face split into a grin. Fuck it. Fuck all this. Hey fuckheads. You pissed your ringer lost? Then get your weak asses down here, and beat my ass yourself, you fuckhead. I roared out, hands throwing devil horns into the air, and that was enough. Guns were drawn and I moved as they clicked empty. The first 6th Street thug had a moment to look shocked as I flipped up out of the pool, spun on my hands, and double donkey kicked him in his chest. He had another moment to scream as he realized I'd just punted his dumbass over the edge of the building. The others leapt up, and I just grinned ferally as I pulled my knife. They had no guns, and were in close range. I laughed, to the sound of my own song for the first time, actually kinda liking hearing my own voice scream out the lyrics, as I moved in. "The fuck, Motoko, you know it's late." "The fuck happened to you?" June questioned, and then nearly jumped up as he saw me walk in. "You should see the other gonk," I said, laughing. I was a bit bloody, but I'd taken a Mac stock on the way back, so I was entirely chipper. Motoko dash. "It's cool, June, I'm going to shower and clean off." "I'm great. Gonna have to talk to Hiromi in the morning. I got a new XBD for her." "Did you know that 6th Street gonks cry like little girls when you surf them off the top of a building?" "I have no idea what that means, but preem." You sure you good? I'm Nova, I admitted, laughing. Who knew that I just needed a little extreme hyperviolence to feel better? Chapter 240. Hello there, Night City. Stanley here with ya, and we got another day ahead of us in this city of dreams. I brushed my teeth listening to the radio and nodded. You tell M. Stanley, I whispered, finishing brushing and looking myself over. After a shower and 8 hours, any sign of me getting my face beaten was gone, and I smiled, teeth practically gleaming. God, I love being alive. I stretched, tossing my toothbrush into the cup near the sink, and walked out of the bathroom. June was already gone for the day. Fujimura was apparently needing his enforcer today, and I was clear for most of the day until this evening. Another MSM thing. Bleg. I wandered around, my feet padding quietly on the tiles, as I reached the couch and leapt, my ankles giving me that wonderful little bounce, enough to throw me completely over the back of the couch and land with a heavy oomph on the cushions. TV sucks. Not in the mood for music. I guess I should go talk to Judy? I reached up and felt the ports on the side of my head. I did have the new XBD to drop off. It had been a while, Hiromi would probably be delighted, and the idea of surprising her with a new BD and seeing her face light up sounded fun. I didn't want to get right back up though. Rolling onto my back, I raised my hands up in front of my face. Clean Chrome stared back at me. Last night these hands had ripped through a group of salty 6th Street, but today they were quiet. I glanced at my agent bringing it up and showing me the results from last night's little fight. The XP was good, but it was the skill XP that was more important. Street Brawler had gotten 2 updates from that fight, which was absurd. I guess fighting a guy in a real no-holds-barred brawl had really helped. Or maybe it was the action kicks I'd done to the 6th Street gonks just after? Oh man, I actually really want to rewatch the BD now. That guy crying as I surfed him off the building was so good. I giggled, unable to resist the blubbering. Honestly, if the gonk hadn't pulled a gun on me and tried to kill me, I might have felt bad, but since he got what he deserved. Okay. I'll get up. Groaning as I sat up and then, since why not, I leaned back and did a cool ninja kip up to my feet on the couch, and then flipped sidewise off the couch, landing utterly silently on the floor. Neen. I whispered, smiling as I ninja dashed around the room. Today was a good day. Unfortunately, it was early in the day, so Rita wasn't around Lizzie's, but I was let in with only a few narrowed eyes, as I hurried down to see Judy. The club was quiet, practically dead, and I almost expected Judy to be sleeping by now. Instead, I found her awake, and definitely on her 3rd or 4th energy drink. You look like shit, you slept yet? What? Motoko? No, not yet, it's not that late. She grumbled at me, spinning in her chair to look at me as I walked in. To my surprise, though, she wasn't alone. The sun is up, Judes, I told her, as I looked at Evelyn Parker, the blue-haired doll that had caused the entire Kimpiki heist in the future. Who is your friend? Who is your friend, Judy? Evelyn asked, doing that I'm so mysterious routine as she crossed her arms and smoked a cig. I carefully maneuvered away from her CW, and instead plopped my ass on Judy's desk next to her. Eve, this is Motoko Kusanagi, she's a merc, and a good one despite her age. I do XBD work for her. Motoko, this is Evelyn Parker. She works at Clouds. Nice to meet you. I offered simply, not quite sure what to think of her. Not sure what to feel about her. She was the type to stab you in the back, but also she was in a bit of a shit situation. Such was life in Night City. To you as well. Judy, I'll talk to you about that thing later. Huh. Oh sure, Eve. Evelyn sauntered out and I got the feeling she was annoyed that I showed up. You should get some sleep. And maybe, I'm not tired yet. Judy grumbled at me, looking annoyed at my comments. That's probably the energy drinks talking more than anything. I don't need advice, alright? Sure, sorry. I came 'cause I scrolled a new BD last night. It's been a while. Figured you stopped that. She muttered, staring at me kinda blearily. Her eyes bloodshot, but she waved her hand at me, and I popped the shard out of my neck and handed it over. Nah, just haven't done a lot of gigs recently that I could actually show off. Sometimes you don't want people knowing you did some work, you know? I do rip your identifying info out. Yeah. That only gives protection in some ways. I said because the big corps, or gangs wouldn't care. This one was probably a bit risky too, but to be fair, they had pulled iron during a neutral ground anyway, so them getting flatlined is just on them. At least I hoped the gang would see it that way. No point in trying to hide it, plenty of people had seen me surf the guy off the building. Which I kept reminding myself had happened, 'cause it was fucking awesome. Alright, sure, I'll clean it up. There ain't no eyeballs in this one, right? A fist fight, some knife work, and I kicked a guy off a building, and then rode another guy off the edge. No eyeballs. She blinked at me for a while as she seemed to try and process what I had just said before just shaking her head. I'll look into it. Preem. Maybe a nap first? You're not my mom, get the fuck out. Going. Take care of yourself, Judy. I called out as I hurried away. Maybe I should send a text to Rita? Seriously, Judy needed a fucking timeout or something. She looked exhausted. Malcolm. Itchy. Motoko. The two boys looked at me, and I looked at them. My eyes shifted, scanning for any sign, any twitch. Then we all moved. My Sandy activated, giving me all the time in the world I might need. Arms swung. Once, twice, and thrice, and then my inevitable victory was assured. Cheat. You definitely cheated. I don't know what you're talking about, I said, sniffing my flat hand held out, as all three of us completed our rock paper scissors to determine who would win for today. How did she cheat? Malcolm whispered to Itchy, who was glaring at me. I don't know. I just know she did. You two always accuse me of cheating. It's unfair. You always cheat. Stop cheating then. The two repeated back, and I staggered back like I was struck. Just because I could slow time, and with quick draw my hands were incredibly fast, so I could literally see what the boys were going to choose for rock, paper, scissor, and always select the one that would grant me victory was no reason to call me a cheater. We're eating ramen. Fine. Malcolm grumbled, but it was fake, he liked ramen too. Ugh. Alright. You're buying though. I won the game. I shouldn't have to buy too. Now the boss buys. You are our boss, aren't you? Motoko? Boss? Itchy replied, looking innocent as he stared into my eyes. I couldn't help but look away. Now who's cheating? Jerks. Fine, I'll pay. Nova. I'm starving. Sami. Oh hey, Motoko, the Minotaur needs some work done on it. Itchy told me, as we all headed through the crowd towards the ramen stall. Meeting up at the Sakura market and choosing a place to eat was something we did sometimes. Hiromi sometimes joined, and sometimes not, but today it was just the boys and I. What? What's wrong with the Minotaur? Its left ankle is acting up. Itchy told me, and I stopped dead in the rows of people, making him stop as I turned to face him fully. Itchy. The last time we used the Minotaur I went over it, and it was fine. Why is the ankle acting up? I mean, I practice with it. It's why I keep it at home, you know? I felt my eyes narrow. My Minotaur, the cool mecha that I had specifically risked my life to hijack instead of just blowing it up. The one I'd only gotten a few minor chances to even use. And Itchy was using it enough to incur maintenance issues. You jerk. Ah. Hey. Itchy scrambled away as I swiped a clawed hand at him. That's mine. I roared, and before I could get him, Malcolm was there. Run. I got her. You're my best chum, I'll never forget your sacrifice. Itchy called out, fake crying as he jogged away through the crowd as Malcolm grabbed onto me and held me tight, stopping me from chasing. You realize you'll die now. Yeah, but you know, when your chum needs it, you gotta jump in. He explained calmly, acting like he wasn't holding me around my waist and trying to keep me from touching the floor. I considered how to handle this and decided to just sigh. Your true act of friendship has moved something in my cold heart. I'll let Ichi live. Hey, really? No, then I shifted, twisting Malcolm's wrist and shifting him away before bringing him in and sliding along his back. A moment later, both my arms were wrapped around his head. Ack, Motoko. Air. He gasped, and I just sighed. I'm sorry you have to die like this. It was nice knowing you. I whispered sadly, and Malcolm reached up and smacked my arm, tapping out. I released him as he nearly fell forward, gasping. Jesus, loosen up. Heh. You were fine. I was only half choking you. Come on, let's get to the ramen place and order. We can even pretend we don't know Ichi when he shows up to get some food. Hell yeah. Oh wait, we should pretend he died or something. I can almost hear the voice of my old Chimichinos. He was always such a good boy. I whispered, sniffling, and Malcolm cackled as we both dashed for the ramen shop. Sliding into a booth, I threw up a hand at the chef and he nodded. He knew what I wanted. Malcolm checked the menu and then called out his own. So how's the whole music thing? I'll probably have to kill some people. I like the equipment, the studio is crazy, if only they'd stop trying to edit the song. Hiromi mentioned that. You got them by the chrome though, right? He asked, making a gripping gesture. Hee hee. Yeah. Hiromi gave me creative freedom. The food is good. Oh hell yeah? Yeah. There is this restaurant we did a show at, Real Food. It was so good. We should go there then. Instead of this shithole. Malcolm said, earning a snapped-up look from the chef. I reached over and dope slapped him and threw an apologetic look at the chef. Malcolm. Hey, just saying, you can just go do that sort of stuff now, right? Yeah, I guess. Sweet, take me to some rich restaurant sometime instead of ramen joint. I like ramen. I grumbled, and he laughed. Sure, but I bet super expensive ramen is good. That does sound like something I want to try. I admitted, but it also sounded expensive, and I didn't want to just blow all my eddies on food. What's with the face? What face? I argued back, and he sent me a look. The constipated face you get when you want to do something, but also don't. I don't have a constipated face. Suyer. Anyways, what's wrong with going to richy places? You got the eddies, and you're famous now. Look around, do you see screaming groupies? No one knows me. Becoming famous, whatever. It's gonna happen. The ramen arrived, although Malcolm got a glare from the chef, and I was half sure either the chef had spit it in, or he'd made it particularly good to force Malcolm to shut up. Either way, the boy dug in without a care. I dug in myself quietly, enjoying the warm salty broth. Even if it was kinda chemically. You've been all weird about the music thing. So what's the deal? I'm not Dash. Motoko. Seriously. I don't know. It's annoying. I hate being responsible for it, and having people tell me what to do. And all the work I have to do to go into it. I just wanted to make music. Okay, so don't do the rest. I kinda have to. Then make them pay for it. You got that fancy real food right? Yeah, that was a perk. Sounds like you just need to focus on the perks and deal with the crap. I know you never had a real job and stuff. I've had a job. Come on, Motoko, I don't mean like Section 9 gig stuff, that's preem, but it's not normal. I mean working as an underling in the claws, and stuff. Ichi and I did that. It sucked, they treated us like shit, but the perks were awesome. We got left alone, or treated with respect. Like that. I guess. I do like the food, and maybe. Just a little, getting up on stage is fun. He sent me a smug look, so I punched him. Ow ow ow. Motoko. Chrome hands. All the better to punch you with. Ease up, that hurt. Fine. Sorry. It's cool. So you like parts of it and hate the rest? Motoko, that's like normal job stuff, chum. Just enjoy the perks, and if it ever gets to the point the perks stop coming, or they don't outweigh the bad, just quit. Just like that, huh? Sure, why not? I quit, Itchy quit. No big deal. No big deal, huh? I mumbled, stuffing some noodles in my face. Chewing the noodles honestly wasn't filling me. It left me hungry for real food. While there were negatives, and maybe I hyper-focused on those a bit, there were benefits to the whole MSM thing. Eddies, I guess, but access to other stuff. Food, the whole Militech deal. I mean, trying to clep a pair of brand new Eagle cyberarms would be a pain, doable of course, but a pain. Heh. I was still going to rob Militech though. But other than food, and some deal I'm getting with Militech, what other perks do I get? Choom, seriously? You get to meet all the rich and famous people. Who I don't care about. No, Motoko, you aren't thinking about it right. If I had access to all the famous people, more importantly, to the rich people, I'd start looking for those that need stuff done. Section 9 stuff. You think? Motoko, we kill people for a living. Killing some skavgonk ain't much different from killing some rich asshole that tears people apart too. Fuck em. Find someone that can pay and let's do some gigs to make some real eddies. The only thing I have to say about rich people? Fuck em. Fuck em. I agreed, grabbing my drink and raising it up to tap against his. Who are we fucking? Oh man, Malcolm, did you hear that? On the breeze? It was like our old friend Achino spoke from beyond. If only he'd listened and worn his seatbelt. The car accident was so terrible. Yeah, Chim. Let's go see his niche in the columbarium after this. Sniff, he was gone so young. Ow. Itchy smacked Malcolm up the side of his head as he took the seat. Don't kill me off, assholes. Seriously, I was hiding for like 10 minutes. I expected you to come running around the corner. Nah, Malcolm's earnest plea for your life moved my heart. So you get to live today. Preem. I'm starving. I just chuffed. But seriously, you fucked up the Minotaur? Damn it, Itchy. It's not my fault. I was just practicing with it. The leg seized up. Ugh. Fine, I have a few hours before I have to deal with MSM stuff, so after this let's hit your place, and I'll take a look. Preem. Yeah, I can do that. Malcolm agreed, and the three of us settled in to eat with only minor bodily harm inflicted on each other through the rest of the conversation. Judy Alvarez. The rush was as always there, messy, the emotions bleeding over, a clean virtue was like that. All raw energy and almost overwhelming. It was like being on a drug. Judy's favorite drug. The music only accentuated the feel as she hopped around in an old pool. The absolute beast of a chrome hound across from her didn't even feel like a threat. The fear Judy would have felt was washed away in the eagerness, the spilling, swirling emotions of a woman that just wanted to beat something. The acrid taste of beer on her tongue only heightened it all. Judy made a mental note as she slowed the virtue, giving her a moment as herself to heighten that feeling. Then she scrolled it back up, and the fight hit her. Blows were dodged and taken, and her heart was pounding calmly in her chest. This fight was brutal, and yet every motion there was no fear, only an iron-hard confidence, and an enjoyment of it all. Every blow to the face was matched with a surge of almost delight, but not from the pain, but just from the knowledge she could push through it. Pain was temporary, that feeling was strongly implied. This was nothing. Just punch and punch until he fell. The moment it happened was instantaneous, a knowledge of exactly when to act. The Sandy caused everything to blur, but the BD kept everything clear. Judy slowed it down anyways, making some edits, highlighting just how much everything had slowed down. Judy could drop the speed of the BD here a bit, let everything feel slow motion. She'd have to edit the emotion line to make sure it stayed solid, but Motoko was reliable about her emotional state. It didn't vary much. If she was angry, and if she was happy. It didn't sway much. Judy brought the speed back up just in time to feel herself punch into the Chromehead's brain case. He crumpled, the blow punching straight through whatever chrome he had. The delight wasn't so much for winning, but just delighting in a fight. The win hadn't been important. It was the act. The knowledge that she could win. Judy could beat anyone that she faced against. Nothing could stop her. She dialed back a bit, shaking herself physically to remind her just where Judy ended, and Motoko began. Then continued. There was almost no chance for Judy to even feel fear as the 6th Street members running the racket stood up, guns pulled. There was no hesitation, as Judy was just trying to process. Motoko's mind had already calculated. A quick hack went out, as easily as breathing, notations in her vision turning each gun red showing they were offline. But before she could do more, a shout. Stand-alone complex. Judy turned, the guy was calling out Motoko, he was a fan. Judy sent him a wave, the actual shift in emotion, an awkward sort of feeling made Judy chuckle aloud. There is a fire in me. A fire that burns. The song was in her ear, and Judy knew what would happen next. She moved, leaping up, flipping and moving into the first gonk, with a delighted shift kicking him straight off the roof. His scream echoing off the building noted, but mostly ignored as she instead just kept moving. The knife was in her hand, without a thought, surprising Judy at just how fast it had appeared. Then it was on, knife to the jugular, a motion Judy recognized. Motoko liked doing that. Then a shift, rolling around the goon she'd just killed, using him as cover before coming around. Knife was thrown, landing in the chest of a ganger trying to shoot her, the gun from the first goon now in her hands. The bullets didn't feel like anything. In most BDs, gunfire was matched with a surge, adrenaline, fear, maybe worse emotions. Not here. Motoko only felt that same satisfaction, at a challenge that was being overcome. The bullets took out another to slow to move, and then Judy realized there was one left. She ran prowling forward as he raised his gun and just chucked it at her. It missed, she leapt, even as he nearly stumbled backwards, and there was a feeling, a confident little smug idea. Feet first, hand down, grabbing the gonk's stupid shirt. This was the leader of the 6th Street, the one that had tried to fire at her. And now her body slammed into him, feet on his chest and groin, holding him steady as there was suddenly nothing but air. The feeling of Judy's stomach flipping wasn't in the BD. Instead, for Motoko, it was just a perfect confidence that this was fine. That even leaping off a building couldn't stop her. The man started crying the moment he realized what was happening. Judy paused the scroll right alongside the recoil as they hit the ground. Fuck. Fucking hell.